Welcome back to episode 9 of the Juggernauts Bolt Action Podcast. Here we are with the usual four of us. We have Tove.
Hello.
The man who hates your games and hates your fun. We have Dan.
Hi.
The one who's really crap but wins every tournament. And we have Sheffield.
I'm doing my part.
Captain Breakalot, who's actually here.
Yay. I like how Sheffield gets props just for turning up. Like, it's all we expect from him. And even that's a bit touch and go at times.
That's the most he'll ever achieve.
I'm be like that. Bye guys. I'll see you in about half an hour.
Hey, we've got people queuing up to take your job, Sheffy. Do you really want to let it go that easy?
Oh yeah, no, especially not if Gaz is filling it. Oof.
Well, it was Paul applying last time.
He's got his own podcast.
We can't cross the streams.
We're obviously a better podcast. I crossed
well,
the streams.
it is true.
I was his special guest on an episode.
Well,
Yeah,
you were just doing
just,
some good advertising, that's all.
That was just sickening, that episode. Everything Paul said, it was, oh, and by the way, if you listen to the Juggernaut Bolt Action Podcast, you'll find out.
It was a bit of an in-joke. You know, I kind of took it a bit too far.
I've seen less advertising at like an American sports event, and that's saying something.
We just need the bikini girls to come out waving Juggernaut signs, like in between plays. That's
Yes,
what
we
need.
do.
Yeah. But like,
Nice.
so you know that when we do a podcast, like in a week beforehand, we're like, right, guys, we'll meet up. You know, we'll get online this day, and we'll do some notes. Here's what you're talking about. So read up on it, and then we'll do that, and we at least pretend to try and prep. Paul's just like, nah, man, just talk. So do you have a topic? No, not really. Just
Well,
say what
I
you
did
want.
notice that you were leading it quite a lot. It was his podcast, and you were the one going, is there anything else to talk about, Paul? How about this?
That's just Tove goes in, takes over, wins a thing, and laughs.
I'm a
That's what he does for
domineering
tournaments.
personality. It's fine.
Paul's just a very submissive person, obviously.
It's the only time Tove gets to be dominant.
I know.
Yeah.
I am
okay.
also here.
Oh,
Still? Okay, now it's a miracle.
I just couldn't think of anything to say.
what have we got ourselves into?
What have we? Okay, right, reset. How we been these past 3 weeks? What have we been up to?
Has it really been 3 weeks?
It'll be 3 weeks since the episode was released, but it'll have been about 2 weeks for us because of the weird timing of recording and editing and all. We don't cross the time streams. For the listener, it'll be about 2-3 weeks.
Oh,
I
wow.
think.
That's quite a lot of weeks.
Yeah. So what we've been doing? Not much bolt action stuff. Not really for me.
No,
We've been
I
kind of
feel like
having a
I've been
break.
cheating. Yeah, I feel like I've been cheating on Bolt Action with other games recently. So there's the cheap floozy of Kill Team that we've all grown bored of quite quickly. But
That game came and went. It
Yeah,
arrived. We went, oh, that's nice. 2 games later, I'm done.
I mean, I
I played 1 week, and then I just thought,
I
Can't be
enjoyed
honest.
playing Kill Team until I played Sheffield, and Sheffield had a bag on the likes of which I've not seen in this decade, because he lost a bit too easily, which I fully appreciate, which is why it wasn't
yeah.
fun for me.
I was going to say,
I've still got
I'm not
some
defending it. Neither of us enjoyed that game. I think,
Nah.
but when you lose a game turn 2, I think I've even still put them in turn 1. When you've lost a game before 1 turn is even over, and you look at it and you try and work out what could have happened differently, and the answer is nothing. It would have happened exactly the same way every time we played it. You kind of have to ask, what's the point? But that is being much more reasonable than I was on the night. I'm normally pretty chill about it, but no, I was having absolutely none of it. I think I left the room to calm down.
Keeping on the theme of Kill Team, did anybody read the firefight rules?
Yes, I discussed them in the War HQ podcast. Please feel free to go and listen to the War Room.
Oh no! Don't you start! Don't go and listen to War Room podcast. Other podcasts are available. Go and listen to the Dice Cast. Don't waste your time.
Cast Dice.
Is that what it's called? Cast Dice.
Cast
oh come
Dice,
on!
yeah.
This technology, it's all the same.
Brad is a fan of ours. Do not besmirch his podcast.
Yeah, sorry,
Let's get
mate. I
its
do
name
actually
right.
listen. It's very good.
yeah, but he's not give us a shout out last episode, so you know.
He gave us a shout out when he went on and said that the Juggernauts were ruining bolt action, or words to the effect of. Remember?
Awesome.
Yeah, but that was like 2 weeks ago now. That was like 2 episodes ago now. We've got to keep it up every week or we don't like it anymore.
So yeah, firefight. Read the rules. Not really interested. Really, they don't seem to really do anything. You know what I mean?
It seems like it's just bolt action, but one model at a time.
The thing that sells a skirmish game like that is the feeling like you can engage with the models, like they're all mini characters, and that's not the point of playing World War II miniature games. You have the one or two special characters potentially, but actually, if you're like, I don't care about Joe Bloggs Sergeant from a random squad.
Well, because it's my mate. The first thing I saw is because it's all individual squads of one. You're going to be hitting everything on 6s and 7s because it's always going to be small team and cover. And then the moment you add move, long range, oh no, they're just going to go down. You're just hitting everything on 7s. So it just didn't seem very fun.
Should we call them that bolt action 7s instead of firefight?
Well, I mean, basically we have to see for what comes out in that commando book they're coming out with.
Just bring a multi-launcher.
I think that's going to be a bit more of a more in-depth game for us anyway. But firefight not particularly bothered.
No.
It's good for people to get started with at least.
We'll give it a go.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm more.
Because most people buy just like one box to start off with, don't they? They just buy an infantry box and they start to paint it up and think, what can I add? So it's a good way of learning the basic rules, one model at a time. You paint 10 of those dudes and you got a kill team, a sort of kill team, a firefight team together, and you're done, aren't you? So you play that for a couple of weeks, then you upgrade to a man's game and play real bolt action.
Speaking of real bolt action, I've been furiously doing extra play testing for our Not One Step Back pack. So
You've been furiously doing something, but not play testing.
If by playtesting, you mean playing with yourself, then
Well,
sure.
you know, keep building various lists and then playing with them and trying to break it and see if I can find any issues that I can then fix before we have to go to the tournament on the day. Been playing through the missions as well. I must say, if I do toot my own horn, those missions are so much better than the ones out the book, like the rule book.
Yeah, it's like we've balanced them and actually taken the time to make sure that they're even all the way through.
So I think even beyond Not One Step Back, at club I want to use the Juggernaut selector and I want to play the Juggernaut missions because it seems to generate nicer missions and like better, more competitive and fairer gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you with the selector. Like I've been harping on for a while in the various bolt action Facebook groups that the way you balance the game isn't by going and changing each individual unit. It's by changing fundamentally the way you pick said units from a lineup. And I think that actually we've got something that's as close to what they should do as he says elitely. I'd like to see them do something like that. Warlord Games produce a standardized universal selector that is limiting in a way that enables fair games and not abusable.
But there's already play devil's advocate here. There's already a standard selector.
Yeah, no, but the point is, it's complete rubbish. It's just, it's like no one takes it unless it's armored, because there's always a better selector.
Yeah, the only reason you take a generic selector is, well, the only reason you take some armies is because their generic selectors are better. So Japanese can take 3 bomb sticks, whereas Americans can take 1 bazooka, and Russians can take 3 dog mines. It's just their selectors are infinitely better.
It's not the selector that does that. It's a special army rule. But the point stands. Yeah, it's some armies have just better choices than the others, which our pack hopefully fixes. And the also like those house rules, like you know when you take a full strength squad getting a free LMG, suddenly you see units you'd never see, and it's really cool. Like it's scary kind of when you have a full a fire support squad finally does what a fire support squad does and just actually punt out loads of shots, which is not a stupid rip-off.
It's nice to see more LMGs because let's be honest, they're not worth the points half the time.
Well, we played a game the other day, Toph, and we had about 6 or 7 full 10-man squads on the board at once, didn't we? And that's the first time I've ever seen that at our club.
Yeah. And it actually means
it's refreshing.
It brings the dice count down because you're not suddenly going for 17 dice. It kind of brings it back down to about 13, 14, which is all.
It does. It's much better. It's much better that it rewards you for taking full strength squads. There was always something really odd, particularly about selectors that are set like late war when everything's under strength, when everything's sort of being dragged in from here, there, and everywhere. Particularly the German selectors, and it's meant to be everything's cut down, and you're like brilliant. But then when it comes to stuff like the American lists on where everything's sort of still fairly full strength at the beginning of the conflict. And everyone you see who's fielding those selectors has squads of 5 or 6, as if they've suddenly taken casualties from what exactly? It's a bit weird.
So all I'll say is, even if you're not coming to not one step back, go and on the event page, click on the link, and have a read through our rules, and just have a go and let us know how it goes. I'd be interested to see what other people think. 'Cause it's all good me sitting here sucking my own dick off, but I'd like to see what other people can come up with.
Could you reach it yourself?
No, not about a Big Mac's eye meat, mate. A couple of ribs ain't enough, you know what I mean?
Do you wish you had a portal gun?
This has gone weird already.
Yeah.
But something happened more recently. The 75th anniversary of D-Day, and the D-Day book.
Has anyone read the D-Day book yet? I've not had a chance to gander it.
Oh, no, I haven't had the time.
We've seen snippets of the units and stuff that are in there, but not the actual campaign fluff that's in there, no.
I had a flick through it in my local gaming store. They had an open copy. Had a flick through.
Anything interesting to report back?
Only what we've already seen. There's a few new interesting units, some interesting selectors and things. We were all really liking the look of Demolition's special rule. I think that's the only thing worth highlighting. The thing that lets you walk up to a building and then detonate an explosive as you walk away.
I don't know if I like it, as I'm just absolutely astonished by it that that's a thing.
Yeah. It's sort of, do you know how in the Western Desert book, and I think it's in Market Garden as well, there are rules for certain units that can detonate explosives, preset them, and to do different effects. But it's all really unreliable. Sort of think like a Goliath demolition vehicle. It's roll a dice. There's the potential for nothing to happen, or it might happen, but if it does, it won't be very effective. And these are just turned up to 11 versions of that. They're basically, if you end a turn in base contact with a building, you say, I'm putting demolitions down, and then you get your first dice out of the bag and go, I'll move away. Boom, building's gone. There's like no dice rolling or anything.
It's a 3d6 HE hit, like a heavy house.
Well, yeah, it's a 3d6. It's a unit and building deleting auto hit that can't fail, because it's not roll a dice and you might do 3d6 hits. It's roll 3d6 hits. So suddenly you've got these squads around just blowing up the terrain. It's completely bonkers.
So when do I get to run bomb sticks into buildings?
Oh no, this isn't for you, Pete. No, you're not allowed to have fun.
So I've got a question about this rule then, because when a unit is in a building, your footprint is the building and you're not allowed to approach within an inch. Mm-hmm. So at what point are they allowed to finish their move in base contact with the building but not be within an inch of the enemy?
They don't even need to get in base contact, do they? I thought they just had to get within 3 inches of it.
Oh, is it just 3?
I'm going to say I think it's within 3 inches. Someone did ask a very interesting question about this though in the Facebook group. They asked, what happens if you've got two buildings that are 2 inches apart from each other, and each one's got an enemy unit in it? Can you travel between them, even if there's no windows? And it's sort of, yeah, you can't.
No.
But should you be able to?
Probably, but that's not the question.
Would that hit both buildings if you put the detonation thing right in the middle of it?
No,
if I'm playing with the detonation things, absolutely, yes, it will.
Have you seen the rules for the Bangalores as well?
It's the obstacle destroying stuff.
Yeah, it's like the exact same rules, but it just says remove the obstacle. Whatever that
Enemy units are obstacles to victory.
Yeah, I was going to say that mouse is an obstacle to my army.
I mean,
you know that pyramid board? That pyramid's an obstacle, right? It's a giant.
I mean, I like the idea that like the TO has carefully positioned the tank traps to stop you being able to get your entire envelopment in a single turn, and then you little sneaky bastard go with your Bangalore and go whoops, and then suddenly the entire 8th army just drives past at full speed.
See this mission? Bang! I win.
Yeah, looks fun. I mean, that the building one looks a bit horrendous, but otherwise looks fun. I have to see if people start actually bringing them to tournaments.
Yeah, most of the units are aimed at the having a bit of fun, but you know, see how they go.
Someone bring some to not one step back, please. It'll be really funny.
It'll make you play on the board with no buildings.
No.
If you bring that army, we're just going to give you an open 6x4 with like one tree in the middle.
No, you make them play on like a really.
Is that tree an obstacle?
make them play on a really dense board, but it's not buildings, it's all ruins. So they look like buildings, but you don't get your rule, and then it's just so close but so far.
You're such a cock team.
Brilliant.
Speaking of cock teasers, we're about to go into a new segment.
Uh-oh.
New segment. So guys, new segment. Guess what it's called? I've come up with its name, which is superior to Hobby Lobby. Can I just say?
I'd just like to apologise for whatever accent Toph's about to do.
No, it's not. I'm not doing it now. I'm not doing that. No. The segment we're doing is Cap'n Crunch Data Munch.
Nice, all right.
Yes, yeah. So this is talking about data number crunching. So, fan of the show Russell has collated loads of information from the WTC. So he's gone around and got everyone's wins, losses, ratios, lists, and done some spreadsheets and shit. So we're going to go through them. So what I'm thinking, we're going to do a game of Bruce's Price is Right. So I'm hoping you UK listeners know exactly what I'm on about. Americans, bear with. Bruce Forsyth is also a legend. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to say the army, or nation, and you guys have to tell me what you think their percentage win rate was.
Oh, sweet! Another game I can win at.
So before we start, all this information was collated by Russell. Thank you, Russell. But can I say, Russell, you're a very strange, confusing man. Because this is the same Russell who's like, oh, fuck you, competitive players with your multi-launchers not playing historically, meh. And then he's also like, I wonder what the percentage of the best list winning is and what you need to do to win with all the dice. What the fuck is wrong? Pick one.
Oi. Now, I understand the man. Data is life.
I know, but why would you be interested in competitive results if you're not that I'm so confused.
He wants to know
data,
his enemy. It's so he can throw it at us in our faces. He can give you a precise percentage point of just how much of a toss bag you are.
Not only that, he can present the full analytics to you and your friends to make sure that they also know.
I'll tell you right now, Toph, it's over 9,000!
I will say, though, before we go into the data, it's not... Take it with a pinch of salt, because obviously they had all those data issues at the WTC, so who knows what was right and what wasn't right. Also, some of these sample sizes...
It wasn't you doing the maths, was it?
Paul's not much better, let's be fair. And some of the sample sizes were quite low, so if there was only like 2 or 3 players, they're going to really heavily affect what that score was. So don't go out and buy an army out of these numbers. It's just an interesting point of conversation. So
go on then, hit us with the data.
Oh, here we go.
What shall we go with first?
I don't know. Just get me in some data.
Okay, let's start. France. What do you think was their percentage win rate?
Armies of France, yeah, not
Armies
the French
of...
team.
No,
you can say the French team are pretty good.
Yeah, Armies of France.
No, there was at least 4 or 5 players with the French armies there.
I'm going 58%.
You went 58% win rate?
I'm going higher. I think it might be as much as 60, 65.
Ooh.
I think the French armies did shite, so I'm going to go.
I wasn't there.
30%.
I'm just going to throw my excuse out of why I'll be horribly wrong on all of them.
Yeah, but Sheffy, you can go off just like what you think they are in terms of like just how good they are, like from a more generic perspective.
Yeah, I think the French have had they've got actually a surprisingly strong list with some of their options. Played correctly, it's nasty.
Okay.
I mean, have you seen an FT17?
It's terrible.
Well, looking at this, we're looking at about 33% win rate with the French.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that is awful.
Yeah. They may as well have just surrendered.
Yeah, and looking at about 15% draw rate, and the rest are losses for France.
Wow.
I'd have thought they'd have gone higher because French have they've got quite a lot of potential for just spamming like houses and stuff.
They're a minor nation pretending to be a major nation in the rules, so they have quite a few toys and good things. I expected that to be a lot higher.
Yeah. Next one, Romania. Now this is going to be a bit
go
skewed
with,
because there's only one Romanian player, wasn't there? I think.
So the poor fellow, I played him, but I think he had a really bad time. So I'm going to go with 10% win.
10% win. Dan.
30 was good for me last time, so I'll stick with that.
Yeah, I'm with Dan. I can't see it being.
I can't see it being 0.
Yeah, I can't see it being that much. I'm going to say 25. I'll go a little bit lower than Dan.
33%.
Yeah, 2 in a row.
No draws either. Only losses and wins. They're the only nation to. Oh wait, no, there's another nation. No, ignore me. But yeah, no draws. No draws at all.
All right, go big or go home.
Well, yeah.
Romania don't do draws.
Come on then, Soviet Union.
Oof. Every
There's a
single
lot of
one
those.
took a Soviet army, didn't they?
The Soviet Union was the most popular army at the WCC. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, because it's the most popular, there'll be some people who played it brilliantly and possibly got as high as 90% win rates with their Soviets, but there'll also be the people who didn't. So I don't know. I think they might be that it might balance out just by sheer numbers. You might get something smack in the middle, 50. I'm going smack in the center, 50%.
I actually think they'd get a little more than that, and I'm going to go with my 55%.
I'm going to change it up a bit and go for 30%.
So I'm going to give it to Sheffy because we've got 40% win, 40% loss, and 20% draw on average.
Yeah.
Soviet
Pretty average.
right down the middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, as I say, I reckon that you'll have some good, some bad, and they kind of cancel each other out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go the other side. Oh, this one's interesting. Germany.
60% win.
There was
See, now
a lot of
I
German
think a
players
lot-
as well. There was a lot of German
Yeah.
players.
I'm going
on it.
60% win. There was a lot
think-
of Germans, and there was a lot of good lists and good players.
I think a lot of the Germans, though, they were all quite similar lists, and they weren't very powerful compared to the rest. I'm going to go with.
Oh, before you do, I'll also say that Germans were the most popular tank lists.
Oh, were they?
He's just spoiled for choice.
Yeah.
Ah.
What did Pete say? 60%.
Yep.
Do you know what? I'm going to go for 70.
Ooh.
70% win rate. Ooh.
Yeah.
No, I'm going with 50 again. I think it'll be the same situation as the Soviets. For every amazing German list, there will have been a rubbish German list that did
I
nothing.
mean, I know that Lee for the Welsh team took Germans, and I think he lost 4 out of his 6 games.
Noak on the Polish team won most of his games, and he had a German list.
Yeah, I think Uwe for the German team won 3 or 4 of his games as well. So fingers crossed.
27% win.
Fucking hell!
Whoa.
20%,
Wow.
27% win. You're looking at about 25% draw, and the rest are losses.
Jesus,
Wow.
that's really low.
In
They were historically accurate, at
in
least.
terms of tank platoons, the German tank list only had a 33% win rate, whereas the tank platoon average was 48%.
Wow,
So that is huge.
they didn't take enough R75 bikes.
It definitely puts the lie to people complaining about Tiger Fear, though, doesn't it?
Bearing in
Yeah.
mind, Brad, England's team Brad, took a German list, and he kind of got a bit
Oh,
spanked.
fucking of course he did.
So you might have brought the score down. But as Germany was one
I
of the more
blanked out
popular
my mind
armies,
because it was so shit.
He's so forgettable that Dan didn't even remember he was in the same team.
I was surprised by that though. I would have thought the armies of Germany looked quite strong. There's lots of options and stuff.
Yeah,
they've got
exactly.
all the
It's
toys, haven't
options.
they?
Mm,
But you're so limited in where you can put the options
yeah.
that it's sort of. I would have expected it to be a bit more average than that. That's sort
Yeah.
of down the crap end.
So yeah, the Germany
For a
was
full rundown of the armies of Germany, please refer to a previous episode.
episode
Yeah,
3.
episode 3,
Yeah,
Codex
yeah,
Panzerfaust.
Yeah. Germany was actually the second most popular army as well. So because there's more players, it's the numbers are a bit better represented. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's that. I was very surprised by that. Talking to Russell, that's his most surprised as well. So, armies of Britain.
Oh God.
46%.
46.
Yep.
Oh, I reckon this will be the first one to go solidly over half. I'm going to say 65.
Yeah, I was gonna go for something similar to Sheffield. I'm gonna say 70%. I think they were the most strong. I think they were the strongest there.
Pete's got it on the nose. 46.
Fucking hell.
46% win rate. Yeah. Now and then you've got about 15% draws and then losses. So they've only got like maybe 30% loss rate. So they didn't tend to lose much.
That free artillery observer is so good.
And I think that lumps all of the Western Desert stuff in it as well, which
Yeah.
we know is strong.
Free Indians. Ugh.
Yeah, and there's a lot. I mean, all the top teams had British lists, didn't they? I know, like the Polish had Gurkhas. Did the Germans? I'm sure the Germans and Spanish had Brits as well, didn't they?
The Spanish had a Brit tank platoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, I remember.
The German
that,
team had Americans tank platoon.
Yeah.
It's an excellent army list for variety, just like the German one. But you have better selectors and better national rules. So
Well, you pick whatever you need. You just pick what you need, don't you? You've got so much choice of what you can do, and then you just go, well, screw it, I'm just going to go Indian. So
it's so true.
Yeah, and British were the
two
third.
lists. There's Indian
third
or there's
top.
up and atom.
Yeah,
Third top. Wow.
third top in regards to number of players.
Okay.
Yeah, and so you got Russian, German, British, and then you got a severe drop. The next highest, the Japanese, is like half the amount of Brits. So
Wow, really?
Yeah,
Next
yeah,
highest
yeah.
was Japanese. Bloody Nora.
yeah. So that's how interesting it is that there were so many like lists locked up within those top 3 armies.
Yeah.
But is that just a popularity thing, Russia, Germany, and British, or do we reckon there's something at play there? Do people think that they're good armies and going to take them, or are they just
I think
popular,
it's a bit
therefore
both.
people take them?
They're popular, and then you realise how to play them competitively properly, and that you sit there. You know,
I
like,
think
like some guy we know with 2 heavy howitzers. What a dick.
I know, right?
I think rather cynically, we all know that bolt action is Hollywood World War II, and I think that most movies, most war films, most documentaries focus on those 3. So they're the things people have the strongest base familiarity with, and that's reflected in what
the
people
USA aren't in top 3. The US
Oh,
were 5th.
Oh, okay, I take it back. I'm clearly wrong.
I just think it's interesting.
Well, I think most people start out with Brits and Germans, don't they? It's
Yeah.
one of your 2 choices, really, especially
at least
over
in the
here in the
UK,
UK. Yeah. So I think that's where it would have started.
Come on,
And then, of course, you see Western Desert, and it's just tick. Yeah, I'll take that
Oh,
one.
yeah.
let's have some fun. Italians.
Did anyone take Italian?
There was one Italian player, so whoever you are, we're about to shame you. I'm so sorry.
Did any of you guys play him? Did any of you 3 play him?
22%.
No, I never
No.
played him.
No.
What force? Who did he play with? Is he on the
I
Danish
have no
team?
idea.
22%. I'm going with.
0.
How many games did he
6.
play in total?
6.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one win is 18% ish. So
Yeah.
about 20%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's 20%. I reckon he won 1.
I was gonna say, I'd be really washy with these percentages because I've only got the graph, not the raw data. So I'm kind of having to eye it myself. When you go, oh, you said 17, that's not right. Don't care. Yeah, 18% win rate for the Italians.
Oh, you got one win?
One win, yeah.
Better than none.
Obviously, that's not representative. It's one bloke. Poor sod, whoever you are out there. But, you know.
He probably wasn't Italian, so it's fine.
I don't know whether he was using the main armies of Italy in the Axis book or the Western Desert book in terms of what national rules he has, because I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, the
think
Western
that was the
Desert
Western
book.
Desert one.
Yeah, you just don't have much stuff. That's the problem. You don't have all your bad special rules. You have a whole bunch of new, quite good ones, but your list is ridiculously limited, and I don't think it would be effective at a tournament.
I must say, I get so confused if I was to build an Italian army. I wouldn't know where to start now, because you've got rules in like every other book, and each one, they're quite big changes as well. It's not just like, here's a new unit. Here's a book which fundamentally changes how your army plays. Huh?
Well, that, and they're so, for the UK scene at least, they're so wishy-washy about the differences, because we get quite a lot of high dice, and the Italy army itself doesn't want a high dice, it wants low dice.
But you've got nothing worth spending all your points on. That is the
Exactly.
that is the problem.
They've got that tank with the 5 machine guns on it.
And
That
they've got
one's
the problem where it's really hard to like. It's like I'm pretty good. I think I know how to pronounce all the unit names properly. Not with an accent, but I think I know what they are. So I think it's like I reckon it's Bersaglieri and Sahariana or something like that. And I'm not confident that that's right, but I'm confident I'm closer than almost everybody else I've heard who's tried, who's
You
not
know
an
what to do
Italian
then.
national.
If you ever go to a tournament and want to play Italians, just take Toph along with you. He can do accents, can't he?
Yeah, I can do Italian.
How
You
to
just-
offend
you
everybody
just,
in the
You just
room.
need to throw your arms up when you do everything. Go beep de boopty, and that's all you need to do.
Just every now and again say "Mamma Mia" and just
Mamma
throw in
mia.
a little bits of Italian that you know. Sergio Parise.
Lasagna!
Carbonara. So
If you're an Italian listener, We're not sorry.
So from the one Italian player, let's go to the one Hungarian player.
Hungarians.
Hungary's just Germany
no
with extra
percent.
steps.
No percent. I'm going with no wins.
No
None.
wins.
35. I think he got
What?
2 wins.
No, one win.
1 win. Sheffield has it. 1 win.
Oh, fucking hell.
Though he did better than the Italians because he managed to get 2 draws.
That's not too bad then.
So, but once again, there's only one guy, so he could just be shit. You know, Hungary could be the most OP army in the world, and we wouldn't know.
It's
Yeah,
not.
A lot of these are it's not enough big enough sample sizes.
Nah, that's why it's a bit of fun. But I wonder how that would change with all the new Budapest stuff, because that came out a bit too soon for people to adapt their tournament list. But there's some good stuff in there. I wonder if if Hungarians are going to be a bit more visible going forward.
Well, there's a lot of the elite shed 2 pins when you pass checks, veteran, tough fighter stuff, isn't there, in the new Budapest book? So it could be really powerful if you got that into a tournament.
And they've been
I'm
given a
looking forward to
wider
playing
selection of German toys.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to playing up against the rocket launcher thing they got. That thing's wicked.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The medium howitzer that fires twice a turn or something horrendous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ain't got time for that. Right. Come on, Pete. Japanese.
Right. So you said it was a fourth most popular army. Considering I knew 2 of the players, that was myself. I think I dragged this down. It's going to be at 38%.
Okay.
So yeah, if you take Pete into account, he did drag it down. But
how much
Manuel,
did Pete drag it now?
Manuel got
I
6
lied
wins.
under that bus and was like, just run me over.
Yeah, Manuel got 6 wins. Russell took Japs and he got 4 or 5 wins. I think it was 4 maybe. So I'm going to go 66%.
Okay.
I'm with Dan. I think it'll be up there. I've maintained for a long time that Japanese is playing the game on easy mode, and I think that it must be over half.
You say that about
Pete
every army that
notwithstanding.
isn't yours.
No,
He says
I
that
say
about
it
every
about
army that
no.
beats it.
I say
They
it
beat
about
me, it's easy
Japanese.
mode.
No, Japanese and Soviet is playing the game on easy.
What about Americans?
We'll come to that.
The Japanese got around 53% win rate.
Oh, I didn't drag it back down that much.
And then another 15% draw rate, and then about 30. The rest 30 odd is loss. So
that's probably my losses.
if it wasn't for Pete, Japanese would have just absolutely stormed it.
Yeah.
Out of
Absolutely
interest,
stormed it.
of the 6 missions you'd have played, how many of them were fundamentally objective based?
None.
One.
Yeah, if they were, I think if more of them had capture and hold objectives, Japanese, I think it would have been even higher. I think that's the thing they're particularly good at.
The Japanese have always been known as a really strong tournament army. No one's going to deny that. Like, native fanatic on your entire army is huge.
Well, what that shows, that those little stats there, is because it's quite a good sample size as well. It's really, really difficult to beat a Japanese list. Only a third of the whole tournament there was losses, and across 6 games with 12 teams, that's a big percentage to not lose.
So what was you playing at, Pete?
Yeah, useless.
I've been given a job to do, and I did it.
You did do it. I also think it might be a bit related to people were forced to take single platoon armies.
Yeah,
and I think that benefits the Japanese a whole lot better.
It makes the Japanese a lot stronger knowing it's single platoons.
Yeah, because other people can't take the toys to deal with you, which is the big thing really. When they can only fit 1 or 2 flamethrowers in, wow.
Just means to shoot them first.
Yeah. So the final one, the US of A. Now there's only
100%.
about 4 US players.
Oh, 4 players.
There's only 4 players, so it's a very
70%.
very skewed. 70?
Yep. I reckon Dan dragged that right up.
That is true. Dan took
I
Americans,
did forget
didn't
Dan
he?
was
Yeah.
Americans, yeah.
I had 5 wins. Yeah.
Yeah, Dan didn't lose a game.
Yeah, I think Dan he'll still be the exception. So I reckon it'll be 4 of 6 will be the average, somewhere between 3 and 4. I'm going to say 60%.
I think the other American players did nowhere near as well. But
Alright, Billy Big Bollocks.
no, because Martin from the German team, I think he only won 2 or 3 games. The Polish lad that I played who took Americans only won 2 or 3, so I'm going to go for about 45%.
The US scored highest out of any nation at 62 or 3%.
Wow,
Win rate.
Jesus.
Wow.
Oh, impressive.
And on top of that,
Good job, Dan.
they had a 20% draw rate. So the Americans only lost 12% of their games.
Wow,
Jesus.
across the week, that's like,
Across
well,
the
across the
weekend,
weekend,
yeah.
that's what?
That's
2,
insane.
what's that? Probably 3 or 4 games across the whole tournament?
Of which there was only
Yeah.
4 players, yeah, and Dan was one of them.
That's
So
quite
it's
impressive.
very skewed, but that's a very good score. And I think
That's
that's
very
Well, one of those losses was Americans on Americans
I
when
mean,
I
that-
played the Polish guy.
that is
Yeah.
US is higher than they're punching above the weight I would classify them as. I would not score them as that potent of a competitive like.
Were the
Army.
lists fairly similar?
No. So Martin had a Stuart spam tank platoon.
Oh,
I
of
had-
course.
I
No,
had-
that's why it's high, isn't it?
I had engineer spam flamethrowers.
So momentarily, I'd forgotten that the greatest and biggest cancer in the entire game is what the Americans are good at. Ah, yes, sorry.
Oh,
So yeah, what do we think of that?
I'm surprised there
Surprised.
wasn't any Chinese lists around.
Yeah, actually, I don't think I remember seeing one all weekend.
There wasn't any Chinese lists,
The only one we saw in the pack got dropped.
which was a mistake. I mean,
Yeah.
So here we go. So yeah, there was 12 Russian players, 11 German, 9 British, 5 Japanese. Oh, sorry, it was only 3 French, 4 US, 2 Romanian, 1 Italian, 1 Hungarian for numbers.
Wow.
And I've also
What
got
have we got Axis versus Allies there?
Do you know what the biggest thing there for me is? No Finns. At a tournament, when you just don't want to lose, Finns are probably better than Japanese. And that is really shocking because loads of teams had Finns, but they were the list that always got dropped.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
So what Dan's saying is get Finns and get good.
Yeah.
I've also got I've got the median averages of army dice totals. So what do you think is the most common dice number count? I'll tell you, there's 9 armies had this dice number.
15.
18.
13.
Dan's got it, 13. 13
Ooh.
armies had 9 dice, and 9 armies had 13 dice, and 8 armies had 14 dice.
It's just a happy median, isn't it? It's where you can
Yeah.
take some of your big toys, have
Yeah.
decent infantry.
The
It'd still
third,
be quite
there 6 armies had 11 dice, and another 5 armies had 16 dice, and that's kind of where your big spike is, between 11 and 16 dice without lives.
What
either
was
side.
the single highest and single lowest? What was the
single
range?
highest,
24, wasn't it?
there was a single 24 dice list,
That was a French double
Yep.
platoon.
and then there was
Worked well for them, didn't it?
there was 2 22 dice lists.
Jesus.
One
Weren't
of
you
which
one
was
of them?
mine. Yep. And then there's quite a gap, and then there's 119 dice list, and then there was 4 18 dice lists, and that's when it kind of
That
merges
was my
into
guess, yeah.
that's when it merged into the centre back. So anything above
was the
18
lowest?
is kind of rest. The lowest there was
Wasn't there an 8?
no, there's 3 armies which had 9 dice.
Ooh.
Best have been German. What a
They
theme.
must have been tank platoons. They must have been, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang
So
on,
you-
9 dice.
Yeah.
Wasn't one of those Brads?
Nah, he had more. He had 11.
Brad had like 11 or 12, yeah.
Oh, right.
So
Remember,
yeah,
Brad was armoured, but they're all transports, so they are a bit cheaper.
between
Oh, yeah.
between about 12 to 17 was a big fat chunk of what the dice are. And for saying, I would say an average for a tournament list is around 15 dice, at least in the UK meta, which we know is pretty high, at least compared to say Poland. I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that is quite interesting.
At least in a what other people are taking and what to expect.
So how in depth is this data? Have we got how many were more pushed towards veteran than inexperienced?
Russell probably has the data. So what
I
I'll do is
think
I'll
you
post
could
these
safely
pictures.
guess, couldn't
Yeah.
you? I think if you're going, the average is between 12 and 14 dice, you can safely assume that's a couple of big toys and then mostly veteran infantry.
these pictures and graphs I will post up on the page with Russell's blessing, so you can all have a look at them. But another thing I see is that when it tails off, once you're above 18 dice, it just drops off. There was only 4 armies there out of however 50 or whatever it was. There was only 4 that had more than 18 dice.
Well, you said to yourself when you finished the event that your 22 dice list, you would never have thought it had not just won every game, and you were struggling in quite a lot of the games to pull out the wins.
Yeah. I think the main reason people struggle against really high dice lists and then whinge about them is because they're just not used to playing them.
Yeah.
So then when they do play them, they're not used to playing a high dice list, and suddenly it just walks all over them, and they're just like, oh my god, well, obviously the players at the WTC, the more experienced players, top of their own countries, it makes sense that that wouldn't be as big an advantage at this level of event that it would be normally. So basically, without my crutch, that's why I didn't do well. I mean, I did do well. I won 4 games, you know.
Won 4 games while the missions were pooping on you. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just think that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see if our listeners agree. If you've turned off already.
This is a Capping Crunch Data Munch, or things that interest me. Any closing points before we go to the next segment? So yeah, with US being highest, and we're about to discuss our opinions on the Armies of US book. How's that for a segue?
Segue, which transport slot is that in the American list?
I don't think it's a transport slot. It's an upgrade to a unit, like bicycles.
It's only for a fat officer that's too lazy to walk.
Are you recording this?
Yes, yes, I am.
Okay then, guys, so what we're going to do now is just do a quick rundown of the Armies of the United States book, or as we're going to be calling it, Codex Fake News.
Fake news.
Good, we'll do it live! Let's do it live!
America!
Fuck
yeah!
Right, so the first thing we're going to do is cover the Army Special Rules. Now, we're going to go in depth into some of these because these are what make America great again. And these are the things that make them such a good beginner army, and also what Pete likes to term easy mode.
Americans are easy mode. I'm with Pete on this. Yeah. They are easy mode.
They are, yeah. So the first one we're going to discuss is the biggest one of all, the Fire and Maneuver Special Rule. So
hands down, best rule in.
Yeah.
I don't think it gets so people kind of breeze over it. It's like one of the strongest national rules there is, and it's what makes Americans so noob friendly, and it's why they are easy mode fundamentally. What makes them great.
Yeah, so
your rifles are way better than every fucker else's rifles. Enjoy.
Yeah. So the basic rule is US infantry equipped with rifles or carbines, which are basically the same thing, and BARs do not suffer the -1 for moving and shooting. Which, when you think about the first turn in most bolt action missions, when you're walking on 6 inches, if the opponent has run on, you're going to be in range with your bars. So you're going to be able to shoot them at worst on 6s for long range heavy cover. At best, you're going to be hitting them on 4s, 36 inches away on the first turn. And the ability to move every single subsequent turn to hit your opponent on the best value that you can do is so huge. I mean, even when you don't have to, you can just reposition to make it harder for the enemy to hit you next turn, and you don't give a shit about it because you're never at -1 to hit them. It's fantastic.
Yeah, the National Special Rule allows you to ignore a fundamental mechanic that affects everybody else.
Yeah,
it's unique and it's brilliant.
Yeah, so the idea behind the -1 to move is that as you're moving, you're firing from the hip a little bit and shooting a bit blind, but the Americans just go, fuck that, mate. Let's just hit normally, thanks.
Shoot first, ask questions later.
I mean, if you've played Medal of Honor or Call of Duty, the M1 Garand is a fucking great weapon.
Yeah.
it's the 6-clip ding 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 ka-ding as it then reloads. It's brilliant. And I think it's reflected quite well in this.
Yeah, they're the orcs of bolt action. You're rolling to hit on the same thing all the time.
Yeah. And another thing as well,
5s.
The BAR for 2-shot 30-inch range weapon, it's absolutely fantastic for only 5 points. When you consider that an assault rifle for the Germans is 18-inch range and 5 points, and an LMG is 20 points, and it suffers the -1 to move and shoot. The bar is basically point for point, in my opinion, the best weapon in the game that you can upgrade a squad with.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Because
No, 5-point Panzerfaust,
No,
but it's close.
still have the bar.
I think the bar is better.
Oh, I'd take a Faust, I'm afraid.
The
To be
bar's
able
going
to
kill
hit-
what wins games. The
Yeah,
bar is
to
going to
be-
kill infantry.
Well, in my American
Have you
list-
not seen Toast Fausts?
in my American list, I never leave home without at least 2 squads of either regular infantry or regular Marines with 2 or 3 bars in them, just to act as a fire base, just to see any small teams. You can move up and shoot them on 6s, get rid of snipers, get rid of flamethrowers, and they're just a fantastic starting point for every army to build around.
They're just so accurate. You know when you've got like units in hard cover and you're trading shots and you're hitting them on 7s and they're hitting you back on 6s because they don't take that negative for moving. It just means that just out of nowhere, ping, 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 headshots, and it's such a good boost. It just hands pins out. It means you just can't hide away from them, and it's always sucky when they're within 12 inches of you. They advance 6, and then they're hitting you on 2s.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
I
What?
was gonna say, when it sucks the most to play against it is if you're defending a position, if you're like you've got a squad in a building, and you shooting out of the building from a prepared defensive position are having a harder time hitting the Americans coming towards you than they are shooting at you in your hard
Yeah.
cover on the way in. It's really quite annoying. But if I was the Americans, I'd be laughing my head off.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is
They
why
can dish out pins like nobody's business, especially at long range. They can outpin any army, and that's the real strength of these. Is because the bars are 30-inch and they don't suffer the -1. You can put pins on units before you need to get anywhere near them. So that by the time you are walking up to them, like Toph says, and hitting them on 2s, they're going to have pins on them all the way there, so they're not going to be able to react to what you're doing.
I think this really helps new players because you don't have that additional -1 for moving. It's really forgiving. So if you've misdeployed your unit, it's not a negative. You can fix that, you know. Whereas some armies, like if you've got a German army, if you've got your LMG set at the back, if you've deployed them in the wrong place, you're screwed and you waste your time, and that's it. You're gonna have to spend turns redeploying. Like Americans, just walk over. It's done. It's fine. So it just makes things really easy. The modifiers don't hurt as much, so you're actually more likely to hit stuff. So it actually encourages you will get somewhere easier. It's just really good.
For certain types of players as well, because myself, I'm either very, very sneaky and defensive, like when I play my Finns, or I'm very, very aggressive and I like to be in someone's face turn 2, or else I'm doing it wrong. And the Americans are a very aggressive army. The fact that you can walk across shooting and not give a shit and be up close and personal quite quickly is brilliant.
Sorry.
I was about to say, well, it's a good thing they don't have anything like that on their vehicles.
Go on then, Sheffy. What's the
wow.
rule they've got?
So they've got a rule called Gyro-Stablized. So if I get this correct, Dan will check me. It's only an option on veteran tanks. It allows you to ignore the penalty for moving and firing. Is it just the main gun, or is it all weapons on your tank?
It's the turret.
It's just the turret.
Yeah, it's the main gun. Yeah,
But basically, it's the same thing as fire and maneuver, but for a tank. And it doesn't sound too bad until you realise it's all turret-based weapons, which includes howitzers. And so suddenly the howitzer tank is an absolute god.
yeah.
I mean,
Yes,
we've covered that.
That tank is so good.
In the top 10 list we did a few episodes ago, so let's not go into that. But
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
sorry.
great rule. No, I was just going to say what you're going to say. Great rule.
It makes smaller tanks like the Chaffee, if you take it at veteran, much better at manoeuvring around the enemy tank, because you're always going to get a better shot because you're not bothered about moving.
I think where this really pays its dividends for tanks is if you've got another enemy tank that you think you might struggle with. The Gyro-Stablized rule is absolutely fantastic for plinking that tank off early game and then just dominating the battlefield. Because if you can hit it on 3s, even when you're moving, and it is hitting you on 4s or 5s, you're already winning the game. You're already one up on that tank, and you're going to either hit it and pin it out or destroy it early and just focus on the rest of the game as if it's not even there.
As if you imagine there's a tank duel, say if there's 2 tanks in cover and they're trying to, in a city, they're trying to outgo each other. -1 for moving, -2 for hard cover. You're hitting each other on 6s. Well, no, the American one's hitting you on 5s. And the difference between a one, the difference between a 1 in 6 chance of hitting versus a 1 in 3 is huge. That's game winning. That's tank battle winning. And once you've got established armor dominance, that's when you can go around and be bully boy and get your big dick energy out and just start coffee everywhere, all over the battlefield.
And because generally speaking, the Americans don't have access. I mean, they do have some nasty tanks, but they don't have quite the selection of huge, heavy tanks that, say, the Russians and Germans do. That actually you can afford to splurge the points on making your Sherman veteran, because it's still only about 280 to 300 points, and you're looking at
well less than that. A veteran Sherman with a medium anti-tank gun is 240 points.
I did not want to hear that.
240 points. What a wow!
That's a Panzer IV regular.
The veteran howitzer Sherman is 220.
Yeah, it's just
where this pays dividends is on the really small things like your Stuarts and your Chaffees and stuff like that, or the Lees, the smaller tanks. Some of the veteran Stuarts with the light anti-tank guns with gyro-stabilized are only 170 points, and that's still got the MMG on it. It's still got recce, and you've got the gyro-stabilized anti-tank gun. So that's a decent, reliable anti-tank weapon for less than 200 points, and it can do other stuff as well. And let's not forget that a lot of the American tanks have the 2-inch blast when they fire the HE from their turret, like the British do. Yeah.
The thing is like in terms of like, if you was joining bot action brand new and you was going, I want to do a tank heavy list, the first thing you'd think of is the Germans, but that's really wrong. The Americans are the ones who do the tanks the best because they're cheap. You know, you can actually fit them into your list. They're very usable. The standard Sherman is like my favourite tank in the game. It's got good armour, it's got a good gun, it's got the blast, it's flexible. It's not too expensive that it doesn't wreck your list because you can fit it in. It's for the price of 2 squads. And with gyro-stabilized, it just makes things so accurate. So you'll rarely be hitting things on 7s. Rarely.
Yeah. And I wanted to call this episode Codex United States of Astartes, just because these are the starter army that you should go to. Exactly like Space Marine are the starter army of 40k. These are the most forgiving. They've got some of the best universal special rules like the Ultramarines have, and they're just a brilliant starter for everyone.
Although this isn't for gyro-stabilized, this definitely is for fire and maneuver. I like that they have national rules that always help you regardless of what armor you're playing.
Yeah.
So like
every army you play, these national rules help. Full stop. End of. Yeah.
So if you're like playing Germans, if you don't have any LMGs, if you don't have a Tiger and you don't have a good officer, what rules do you get? You know what I mean? Whereas Americans, hands down, every time, you're basically getting a +1 to hit. And still, it's effectively what it is because this is a maneuvering game. The army that just sits there firing all game generally is the army that loses. So being able to maneuver and not lose any of your potency is massive.
And it's worth saying it makes you play the army like you expect it to. It is thematic of the way the American combat doctrine worked. Fire and maneuver is what they did. Whereas, so if it feels like you're playing Americans advancing on positions because you're constantly moving, because you're rewarded for moving.
I mean, apart from Banzai, I can't think of another universal rule for an army that affects more models, because Banzai affects every single thing, no matter what it is, except for a vehicle. And the fire and maneuver, most of your infantry is going to be rifles or carrying rifles or bars. So it's going to affect the vast majority of your stuff, isn't it?
Well, and most other armies, to get this sort of effect, have to load up on SMGs and assault rifles. And that's points that the Americans don't have to spend. So they can spend those points on, getting gyro-stabilized tanks.
Or more dudes, so you always outnumber the opponent.
Yeah.
Does it work on inexperienced troops?
Yeah.
Yes. So it actually makes the inexperienced as good as other people's regular and veteran infantry, because your inexperienced is going to be suffering the -1 for being shit, but not the -1 for moving and shooting. So then you'll be hitting on the same as someone else's regular or veteran troops on the same board. Whereas your regular troops or your veterans for Americans will be hitting better than everything else.
I think Americans can do inexperience just as good as, if not better than, the Russians can.
I think
Like-
they do them better than the Russians.
Like, fair enough,
because
they
of
don't
that
have
fire
draft
maneuver.
back, but the actual squads will actually do things. You know, you can actually semi-rely on them.
They don't have Strathbat because their inexperienced squads will actually do things. You don't want the Strathbat unit as Americans. You want to be able to have a unit with inexperienced dudes with rifles doing that movement.
Yeah, and I mean, for things like when you're coming in from reserve, you know, you just walk on and you're firing at full effect. So that
Yeah.
can,
Well,
so that, go on.
now you've mentioned coming on from reserve, one of the other
Segue.
special rules. Yeah. Star swipe. One of the special rules they've got is modern communications. Americans do not suffer the -1 penalty when they're moving onto the table from reserve, and that includes outflanking.
I fucking hate that one. That gets me
That's
every
so
time.
good.
Every time.
It is
Yeah.
fantastic.
It
It's a
even though-
very
even though I play-
underrated one.
Even though we play Damned Americans all the time, we always get outdone by this.
Yeah, I always forget. It's like if you'd have told me what the rule was called, I wouldn't have been able to tell you because I just completely forget it's there.
See, this is a rule for me where you will almost never need to play this if you're an opponent against an American army, because if your American opponent is outflanking stuff or leaving stuff in the second wave, he is doing something wrong. Yes, it will help when he's got the missions where you have to split your force, but in most missions where you've got an entire wave or you deploy half and the other half comes on first turn, you will always be bringing everything on because of the fire and maneuver special rule. You don't care about having to walk across the board and fire because you don't suffer the penalty for doing that. So the modern communications rule it's brilliant to have, but you'll very rarely see it used in an American force.
Could
The
be
other
used
thing-
useful for a flamethrower cheat. Come on the side, burn somebody laugh.
I was going to say, how
Yeah.
many times have you played a game where the opponents had a bad time because that flamethrower jeep's failed to come on 3 turns in a row? You're never
Yeah,
going to
too
have.
many.
You're
Too
never
many.
going to have that with the Americans.
The
Well,
thing is,
when
it's-
you have your inexperienced Russian horde, how many times has half your army not board at -1
Yeah.
on leadership 6 and 7?
It seems like there are some units in the game, particularly sort of like there's a few German units, some of the special forces ones, that let you they inflict a negative modifier on your ability to come on, and all that does to Americans is make them work like every other army.
Yeah.
Whereas
Put you
every
down
other
to
army,
you work like normal now,
Yeah.
and but every other army's fucked.
yeah, with every other army suddenly being -2 at reserve is horrific. Whereas Americans just go, "Oh, you're normal now," and they don't care.
I just think they're really good for things like objective grabbing, because you can afford to leave that little shitty 5-man unit in a jeep off the board, and then grab the objective last turn. Or if it's like envelopment, you
Five
know that you're going to come
inexperienced
on.
dudes. 5 inexperienced dudes are 35 points, and to have 2 of those units outflanking, 1 on each side to grab objectives last couple of turns, and do it reliably on leadership 8 is actually really useful.
Yeah, really good. As I say, it comes back to why they're good for new players, because it's forgiving. You know, like if you was a new player playing against Brandenburgers and you've left something outflank because you thought that was the right thing to do, and then suddenly everyone's on the -2 to come on. Fuck.
Yeah.
But because Americans are not, it's like the bubble wrap army. It's Codex bubble wrap. It's like it's like here's a nice game. Let's come and play some bolt action. You're gonna have fun. You know, it just surrounds you in a nice warm cocoon of jelly and protects you from all the nasty things out there. So that by the time that it's just a great opportunity to learn.
However, there is a needle in amongst all of this lot, and the amount of times I've seen this one go wrong, I can't count, and it's funny every time. And I get the theme behind it, but it just goes wrong too many times. That's the air superiority. So their forward air observers can call 2 airstrikes instead of 1.
You mean you can kill 2 of your own units instead of just 1?
Yeah, the
Exactly.
worst special rule, the worst universal special rule, except for maybe the Savoria, whatever it is.
Avanti Savora.
Yeah, the one with the Italians where
Right, yeah,
as soon as you lose 3 units, you're -2 to leadership and your whole army.
Hey, things are going badly.
Avanti, avanti!
It's really strange that it's such a nice noob-friendly army, and then they throw this noob trap of a rule in. Because you just look at it and go, ooh, my air observer gets to go twice. That looks good. I'm going to take one of them. Don't do it, new people. Just walk away.
The amount of people as well that you've seen in tournaments as Americans, and they've taken the air observer, and you just think, wow, this is going to be an easy game. And at the end you go, why did you take the air observer? He goes, because you can do it twice. You go, yes, but it's shit. It's shit twice.
See, this
Since
says
they
everything,
changed
right?
the
So
rule,
true.
since they changed the rule for them for only needing 3 hits and you're done, rather than 6, they've made them utterly and completely useless to take.
Okay.
See,
so
what says everything is that I've been to a lot of events, done a lot of tournaments. I don't own an American army. I've never played with a forward air observer, and I've fired that forward air observer 5 or 6 times. It's bloody brilliant.
So the thing is, it only turns up on a 4 or more, and if it turns up, your opponent gets to fire their pintle shots at it for free, of which if you're playing, say, a mechanized list with loads of half-tracks, it's going to get shot down, because you only need to get 3 hits, and it's always hitting on 5s, which isn't even hard with, like, a 6-shot weapon.
Or God forbid, there's a flak 88 on the board.
Yeah, and that's if it turns up. And then if you're like trying to use it to take your tank out, you got to hope that the right plane turns up. Because God, if you're strafing a tiger with a machine gun, that's a waste of fucking time, isn't it?
If you
Eat
want
this,
to
tiger!
take,
Yeah.
if you want to take these as Americans, the best thing I can recommend is if you're taking a tank and a couple of transports, put some Pintle MMGs on them. If you've got Dodge trucks, put your Pintle MMGs on, because you will have to shoot your own plane down at some point. And also, the worst thing about it is, you could call your airstrike in. Yes, you rolled a 4, it comes in. You put the 18-inch gap down and you pin loads of stuff that side and you pin loads of the stuff that side and you think, oh wait, I forgot to test to restrain my own units from shooting my own plane. Fuck, I rolled a 1, it's dead. And you gun down your own fucking plane. It's completely useless.
You've got the chart for the planes, you roll a d6. There's 3 things that can happen. It can be delayed, it can come in and shoot the opponent, or it can come in and shoot you. You've got one roll of a 1, it shoots you. On a 2 to 3, it's delayed. On a 4, 5, or 6, it shoots the enemy. Which means for each forward air observer, you've got a 25% chance that it comes at you. 25%! You're paying
It's
75
nuts.
points for having a 1/4% chance of just having your own units annihilated.
Yeah.
It's completely not
Although-
worth it.
To all of my tournament opponents, it's totally worth it. Take it some more. I love shooting you with it.
I would say use the warplane rules.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
very
bring a
good.
Mustang or something.
I mean, when you compare this to the Free British Artillery Observer,
And I don't even go
Yeah.
there.
absolutely chalk and cheese.
See,
The British
I
are
would
the
want this
only
change.
people who should regularly be bringing observers.
yeah,
That's because you
I
haven't
would
got
want
to pay
this
for
change.
it.
Yep.
I'd want this change purely to they get a free air observer.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
then, there you go. There's your free guy. You might kill your own dudes, but he's free.
Well, every other army gets free stuff, so let us have free stuff that kills our
You
own
don't
shit.
need it when your special rules
Isn't
are
there
that
that
good.
selector that allows you to take 2 forward air observers?
There probably is,
So
but
why-
I don't know why you
Hear
would
me
do
out.
that.
No, hear me out. Hear me out. Right. Hear me out. Right. You take 2 of those platoons and bring 4 of the fuckers. Yeah. Leave literally everything you can in reserve.
Oh,
Have the
hidden.
4 or hidden, whatever. Have the 4 forward air observers just fire everything and get the entire American Air Force to come and gun stuff down. You know, with some heavy metal on in the background, as you're just blowing shit up and laying napalm. And then once you've shot all of your own air observers, then you can come on.
Operation
I'll tell you
Painted Black.
exactly what will happen is you will have one air observer who calls in the airstrike and he rolls a 1. It will pin one air observer out the game, flat the other with a heavy howitzer hit, and be left with one twat left doing fuck all.
Yeah, but then he gets to fire it again and kill everybody else.
It's 75 points per air observer. You can 4 of them's 300 points. Like it's 300 points of fun. Would
Oh
you
yeah,
rather
it's a
have
fun game. It'd be
Would
brilliant.
you rather have 4 air observers or like, I don't know, 1 panther?
Yeah,
Panther.
more air observers. That's only because the Panther's even worse.
Don't do that. Can't recommend Juggernaut fans.
No, it's all the other rules are very bubble wrappy and nice, and this one's just like, see that bubble wrap needle? Have this.
What would you do instead then? Because I like the concept they're trying to do. You know, the Americans that had air superiority, but I can't think of a good way to represent it, really.
I think a good way is if you know when you have the when the plane comes on, you choose a point and then choose another one 18 inches away, and stuff around both those areas takes D3 pins or something like that, or D3 -1 pins. Just do that to an area on the board. So say like get a 6-inch template, put it on the board and say every unit under there takes D3 -1 pins, even to a minimum of 0. And then that's it. Just have that once per game, because it doesn't really do much when it hits anyway, because everyone just go down. And you don't want to risk getting shot at, and it might actually make it worthwhile taking.
So the very first time I started playing in V1, I used air observers in V1 purely to target tanks, and then I learned that doesn't work, and stopped taking them.
Oh, actually, a better thing you could do for this, for the air superiority, let them call it in once, like every other army can, but just make it come in on a 2+, and on a 1 it shoots your own men for the friendly fire rule.
Give them a reroll.
Yeah, or give them a reroll. You know, friendly fire still happens because it's Americans. They shoot at each other and everyone else like knobheads. But give them a 2+ or a +1 for being a veteran air observer, or reroll for being a veteran, something like that, and just make it more reliable. Because at the minute, it's just double dose of shit rather than actually being superior in any way.
And to be fair, if it's reliable, it shows the air superiority. It's like, oh, you might not know that fighter, but or that plane there, but there's another one coming in with it. So,
so that's kind of like the overall national rules, and I think. So how does this translate into building an army then? Let's go into the individual units. So my first point was when we said, right, let's review the US book. It's like, cool, okay, right, I'm going to read the US book and I'm going to go and pick some unique options that only they have that no one else has. And I'll tell you what, just the noob-friendly kind of just generic, easy to learn carries all the way through into unit options. Like, there's nothing there. I mean, there is stuff there, but there's nothing really unique to the Americans. Not really. You know, like when we did Germany, and there was units left, right, and centre. Oh, here's a Panzerwerfer. Oh, here's an Einstoff Flammenthrower. Oh, here's a Panzerfaust. All of these different things they can do. And Americans just like, no, it's a dude with a rifle. You can have lots of dudes with rifles if you want.
Yeah, there's a lot of fancy names for dudes with rifles. So you can have engineer veterans, paratroopers, gliders, pathfinders, rangers, and apart from the rangers, they're all the same with no special rules. It's only the ranger squad that has a special rule. Everything else is just an infantryman of a certain rank.
See, I looked at this and come to more or less the same conclusion of it's army book generic. But all I thought while looking through it was their entire theme is, this is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one's mine.
I mean, each squad starts with 6 men. You can go up to 12, and then you can buy them a selection of BARs and maybe an SMG. Like the elite squads, like Marines, can have 3 BARs. A normal squad can have like, I don't know, 1 or 2.
1 or 2, depending on early or late war.
Yeah. Now they do have. They can take normal veterans, and they can take veteran to fighters normally from the FAQ, which is really good.
Yeah.
But it's once again, that's not anything that no one else can do. It's nothing out of the ordinary. It's just it. But then you combine that with their national rule, and suddenly it's just
really
good infantry. It's just good stuff.
It's weird because when I first picked up this army book, obviously I'd looked in the rule book and I'd seen all the German toys and the Russians and stuff like that, and I picked this up and I was reading through it. I was like, oh, these infantry squads. You can't actually take much, can you? So if you're looking at like the regular infantry squad, the NCO can have an SMG, brilliant. One man can have a bar, brilliant. That's it. That's all your options done. And then when you think about it, you think, well, I don't actually need any more SMGs because I've got the fire and maneuver special rule. I don't need to take a massive squad for the re-rolls on leadership because if I'm coming in from reserve, I'm going to be not at -1 anyway, so I don't care. You don't need anything else to make them really good because of the universal special rules.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's quite. Once again, it's noob friendly because it's hard to overspend on stuff you don't need. You know, like some people, they go in and go, oh, I want all the toys, I want this, I want that, I want this, and they spend, they buy Goliaths and shit. those
Or
options-
40 points on assault rifles for one squad.
Yeah, but I think it's just easier to make a solid US list than it is to make, say, a German list, specifically because those options aren't there. They don't funnel you down the wrong paths. They funnel you down, get some squads, get your fundamentals up, build a good solid core you can build around.
Yeah.
See, what I like about the American list is, although you think where the hell's all my options gone, it gives you the key option that I see at many tournaments with American lists. You see it everywhere. They always outnumber their opponent in men. The only time I've not seen that is if against Soviet inexperienced hordes, but a lot of the time they'll outnumber them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite common seeing the army where it's like 5 8-man squads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's barely 400. That's just 400 points. Done.
But that's 5 8-man squads, 2 bars in each, and you're just there like, oh god.
It's just solid. There's nothing we really can say about it. It's just solid because
Well,
they put a
when
good amount of
those-
firepower out and quite
Yeah.
accurate.
When those 40 men are walking towards you with over 50 shots reliably hitting you on balls, it's quite a lot of shots.
Yeah.
Especially, it's quite a lot of shots when they're coming at you.
I mean, the only real units which are a bit different is Rangers.
Rangers lead the way.
Rangers, so they've got the rule where at the start of the game, before the game begins, they get a free 12-inch run, which is really good. Why don't we see more of that?
And as per FAQ, they can run onto the board with that move.
If
Yeah.
they're part of the first wave.
Which they would
Yeah.
be, yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe it's also after prep bombardment, so you
Yeah,
avoid
it's-
that at the same time.
It's
Yeah.
literally just the second before you pull the first dice out.
Yeah. And because it's a run as well, it means your unit's going to be 18 inches on the board shooting first turn, which is fantastic considering they were off the board a minute ago.
Which just means you get to the objective first, and then they've got to dig you out.
Yeah. And
We
because they're veterans as well, they're hard to get rid of.
Yeah, Rangers are cool. We've mentioned Marines. I mean, they're no real different to normal guys, except they can take more BARs. Is that
Yeah,
enough
the
to
Marines are
distinguish
just-
them?
Yeah, well, Marines have to come in slightly bigger squads for the late war stuff. They come in 7-man rather than 6. But apart from that, they can take some special weapons like pistols and shotguns to make them tough fighter. But shotguns are just shit SMGs, so I don't know why you take them.
The only thing I have to say about the Marines is a complaint, which is more than any other unit in the game, they suffer from players going, actually, but so I don't know what it is. It seems to be that unit that gets people historical rivet countering at you.
Do you know what, if you wanted to do a what do we call it? A fire squad? Was it fire squad earlier? Firefight.
Yeah.
If you wanted to do firefight, the Marine late war squads are fantastic if you wanted to do a customized themed unit, because each one of them could pretty much take a different weapon and have a different role. But apart from that, Marines are just regular or veteran infantry. They can just take an extra bar. That's it.
Primaris infantry.
Yeah.
One thing that the Marines can do that I noticed was on top of all your other equipment, up to 3 of them can also have a pistol for a point each. It's basically tough fighter for a point.
I mean,
Yeah,
to
but
fight
your
is not
veteran
really a point,
infantry.
yeah.
Yeah, your veteran infantry can take tough fighter for 1 point a man as well. The only other
Can they?
infant, yeah, they're in the FAQ.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they're not in the book for some reason. They failed to copy and paste that bit across.
Are you suggesting that the books are poorly edited and looked after?
No.
Not at all, no.
Yeah. The only other infantry squad worth mentioning is the paratrooper pathfinders from the Market Garden book.
Most broken unit in the game.
Yeah, so if you take the paratrooper squad from the actual Codex fake news, you'll see that they don't have stubborn, but paratroopers from the Market Garden list do have stubborn, and it is a point a man, I think. And if you take pathfinders, they're a set unit of 6 men, 2 SMGs and 4 rifles, I think, and they are like 96 points for the squad, but they are leadership 10 for everything. No matter how many pins on you, no matter if you're on fire, no matter if you've just been assaulted and everything like that, you are exceptional training. You are leadership 10 for everything, which is amazing.
Stubborn,
Then
ignore
not
pins.
as good as
Yeah.
Maori Gurkhas or whatever the stupid British combination stuff is.
The thing is, though, is Maori Gurkhas are only good at running at you.
Yeah.
That's all they do. Like, paratroopers and pathfinders can do whatever they want to do, because when you've got leadership 10 ignoring pins, you're never going to fail a check. Not realistically. You might fail like one a game, but you can't be stopped. You can do whatever you want.
The only unit better at their job is, sorry for swearing at you lads, Gurkha paratroops.
Yeah, I think because of the fire and maneuver, I think the paratroopers for the Americans are very slightly better, just because they do exactly the same job as the others, but they can move without penalty, so they can just walk away from their Gurkhas as you're running at them and gun you down.
No, I think
it's the
you need
mobility
to.
that's key.
No, you need to deploy them in a bubble, stationary, protecting your forward air observer. That's how you play Americans.
I will also shout out just a normal unit of engineers. I think American engineers are better than everyone else's engineers. For two reasons. One, you can take them regular. Most armies you can't take engineers regular. So when you want your squad with a flamethrower in it, there's a couple, yeah, but for the most part you need to take them veteran. And secondly, the flamethrower stacks very well with fire maneuver rifles. So most engineer squads, because your flamethrower needs to get within 6 inches, they buy loads of SMGs and you just run up to people and shoot people. You don't need to buy the SMGs for the engineers. You're hitting on 2s anyway with rifles.
Yeah.
So
Well, I took
really good
I took 3 of those. I took 3 8-man engineer squads, all with a flamethrower to the WTC, and those flamethrowers were god mode all weekend.
Yeah.
So I look at these engineer squads and I cry a little, because the Japanese engineer squad you can only take 1 of per platoon, and just the abundance of being able to fill your army full of these engineer squads is very strong.
Yeah. As a regular selector, you can take as many engineers, but in most theatre selectors, you're limited to 1 or 2,
If you're doing all theme and fluffy and you're modelling a American army from the island hopping campaign, it is within your historical interest to put 5 flamethrowers in your list.
Yeah.
Because that's what
they
they
do.
So yeah, we don't really have much more to say about the squads. You can't really go wrong.
No.
Even inexperienced squads are better than everyone else's. So just
there's a couple of interesting-ish ones in like the Pacific Theatre books. There's some jungle marauders and some like 3-man dog team things in there, but they're not useful. They're quite themey and fun to take, but they're not actually very good, so we'll just skip over those ones.
Yeah, nothing to say. Teams, once again, they have normal stuff. There's no.
You can take 3
MMG
MMG teams
Personal.
for 1.
Yeah.
3 MMGs, or
I don't know why you'd want to take that many MMG teams.
3 MMG teams and 4 air observers.
Oh, I will say though, I really do like the bazooka team. It's a Piat on steroids.
So the bazooka's standard weapon in the book. What is it? +5 at 2-foot range.
Yeah.
How many points? Is that 60 points for a squad.
60 points for two boys and 1 bazooka.
Yeah, and it's shape charge, so you're not at -1 for long range as well when you're penetrating armor.
It's that nice blend between a Piat, which is just shit, a bazooka, which is good, but it's
and
not.
a Panzerschreck.
Yeah, Panzerschreck's too expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just that nice, Goldilocks middle of what you want for an anti-tank team. Like they're actually usable.
Yeah. Well, I use take the Guadalcanal Theatre when I'm taking just to take loads of Bars Army infantry, a flamethrower engineer squad, a flamethrower squad and a jeep, and then 2 bazooka teams, because these are your anti-tank and they are quite useful, and because they're a small team, they're very rarely going to get shot at reliably, which is really good.
I think it is your main anti-tank as an American player, because tanks are too expensive to reliably take loads of them, but fitting 2 bazooka teams in a list is easy.
Well, when you're taking a 1 platoon and it can't be a tank platoon, taking these double bazookas is actually really useful for a theatre selector, because not many other theatre selectors out there will let you take anti-tank teams or tanks themselves. So it's almost got the upper hand on everything else.
And other team access, sniper as normal. Oh, I will say their snipers can take SMGs.
Oh,
the fuck is
yeah,
that for?
really good.
Why can American snipers take SMGs? Does anyone
Just to
anyone
clear
wanna
out
say-
every motherfucker around them.
Yeah, but
Because
why?
it's in the
I'm gonna snipe him.
Constitution
Hold
that we
on a minute.
can bear arms, motherfucker.
They've got bear arms. Jesus.
Yeah, it is private supply.
Like the amount of times I've snuck up on a sniper team thinking, yeah, I'm gonna fucking have you, and he just jumps out at me with double SMG and guns me
Four
down.
shots,
What the
good
fuck
night,
is
son.
wrong?
But also, I don't know if this is the same for every army, but the sniper shooter himself also has a pistol. And I'm not sure if it's usually just the spotter that has a pistol, but they're both tough fighter anyway.
Depends on some armies. The spotter doesn't even have a weapon at all. I mean, the Brits they have pistols. Soviets they
The
don't.
Japanese have pistols.
Yeah. So sniper teams are actually tough fighter as standard in the American list, and they're 2 points more expensive. So they're 52 for a regular team, and you can take SMGs for 2 points a man. The only reason you take SMGs is so you can, like Toe says, you can hop out and go, right, here's 4 SMG shots on 2s. Thank you very much.
Wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
So, yeah, snipers, mortars. There's nothing. They're there. They can't.
The light mortar team can get a 2-man paratrooper version. Pretty useful.
Yeah, it's got to be veteran. Don't take mortar, but
So it's got to be a vet. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
only for the paratrooper version.
Yeah.
Everything else is 3-man like
Yeah.
normal.
So yeah, moving on. Artillery once again. They can do medium AT guns, medium howitzers, heavy AT guns. They can do standard fare. They can take a multi-launcher, the rocket battery, which is identical in every way to the Nebelwerfer.
They can take AA guns.
Yeah, they can take the automatic hands. It's just like it's, as I say, they're Space Marines. They are Space Marines, aren't they? They just have their version
on
of
a minute.
everything.
Isn't that 90mm M2 AA gun basically just a flak 88 on steroids?
I mean, it's not the 88's better, so it's not on steroids, but it is.
Yeah,
an
the 88's better in every way. The 88's cheaper, more men.
It's
Fire
a
as
Black 88
howitzer.
on meth.
So, I mean, as usual, you'd probably want to go over, if you're building competitive, you'd probably want to go over medium howitzer, the 105.
Yeah, well, they can take light, medium, and heavy of every artillery piece. So howitzers and anti-tank, then they can take the heavy, light, or super heavy anti-aircraft guns. So
Do they have a super
They're
heavy AT gun option?
yeah, it's the 90mm AA gun. It's the AA/AT gun.
Ah, okay, cool.
Right.
Cool.
So it's an anti-tank gun that has flat
Fair enough.
for when you want to inflict 3d6 hits on that warplane.
Yeah.
See that warplane? It's dead.
Yeah.
For the Allied warplane that your observers brought in to shoot your own guys.
See that Mustang you just brought in that actually was going to hit an enemy? Yeah, it died.
Come on then.
That's-
Vehicles.
I was going to say, should we let Sheffield kick this one off because
Yeah.
he loves them so much.
Well-
Sheffield, do you want to talk about the Stuart?
I quite like the American vehicles. Genuinely, like I think, like we've already talked about gyro-stabilized enough, so I'm not going to go at it too much. But actually, it's Space Marine tanks. Everything you've got is a pretty good, reliable option. Everything's solid. There's a couple of standouts. As Toph's already said, the standard Sherman it's like the T-34. It can do everything well.
It's better than a T-34.
Yeah,
It's got that HE bonus.
Yes, I have a particular. True, that is true. Is it the same points?
Yes, because they also have the earlier ones have weak sides, so
Yeah.
that makes their points less. So they're on par with the higher HE value.
Yeah, but then you've got the Stuarts and all of the light tanks, and I really hate these vehicles because they just have too many MMGs. It's not specifically because they're American, though. So, because we're reviewing the American list, I'm not going to hate on them too hard. But for your points, things like the Stuart, jacked out of its mind with MMGs and LMGs, can put out more fire than most armies can. And
Isn't that just one version of the Stuart? Though?
yeah, but it's the only version worth taking.
It's the only one
I
you
would like to
see.
put forward the Satan flamethrower. That thing's awesome.
That's the point. There is an awful lot of flamethrower tanks.
Yeah,
They've got a new one as well, haven't they?
Yeah,
They've
you
got
can
a
buy a
Croc.
flamethrower.
Yeah, they've got the Sherman Croc, which is a Sherman in exactly every way.
That's in
except-
this book anyway.
No, there's updated rules for it. because it has the AT gun in the turret, the coax, the whole machine gun, and then a flamethrower on top of that. So rather than replacing a weapon, it's like adds a new one. Yeah.
When you say Sherman Croc, what I picture is a big red plastic Sherman with lots of holes in it.
You can't gyro-stabilize a flamethrower though.
No.
Which is probably for the best.
Yeah, because hitting stuff 9 inches away on 2s would be fucking on 3s would be fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. So there's that. I want to throw my hat in the ring. The Chaffee is one of my all-time favorite tanks to use.
You don't see them anymore since they changed the recce rule.
You used to see them everywhere on V1, and it was really funny because everyone's like, "Oh no, it's not because it's horrendously broken. I'm just playing it because it's like fun and fluffy, and I just like the tank." And then when V2 came around, you never saw them, and it's like, "Oh, was it because they were fluffy? Oh, okay then. Yeah, not because they were fucking horrendous."
Well,
same with the Puma. That was worth taking as a German player in V1 under the old recce rules because it was expensive and stupid, but you could keep it alive. Whereas now you've got to be a bit more careful, and so it's not worth taking.
I mean, the Chaffee is exactly the same stat line as the Sherman. It's got the same guns and everything. The downside is it's 8+ light tank rather than 9+, which means it's a whole lot cheaper. And it can recce. So
it gets the big HE blast as well.
Yeah.
Because this is the first tank that can take it. So the Stuarts don't get the big blast for when you're firing HE with the turret, but this one does, and it's a medium anti-tank gun on it as well. So for 150 points regular, medium AT gun with a coax, whole mount MMG, and recce.
160 with recce.
160 with recce, yeah.
I can't think of a better vehicle for 160 points. You know what I mean? It's just so cheap.
What's the standard gun on it?
It's a
medium AT.
Yeah.
With the
and that's
HE,
the one that's the 2-inch HE, yeah.
And you know what? I'd be tempted to take that as a veteran recce vehicle for the gyro-stabilization.
Oh yeah. Well, because then
because he gets his 200 points, but it's so good at what he does.
Well, you can poke out of terrain, fire a shot, and then when something nasty comes back, recce away again, and then next turn you poke your little noggin out again, and because you moved, you not get the minus. So it's just brilliant at dueling other tanks. Brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, another unit that's good at that is the Hellcat. Simply before the move and fire with a heavy AT gun. Now it is 7+, it is 7+, and it is open topped, so it's squishy as all get out. But because it's got recce, anything scary, you just run away.
Yeah, it's the last dice of the turn.
Yeah.
You bring it out, shoot whatever's left, go away.
Yeah, but it's 150 points. I don't think you can get a cheaper mobile heavy AT gun anywhere in the game.
No, it's just a shame that you can't gyro-stabilize it.
Can you not?
No.
Can you?
It's because it's not a proper tank. You can't do anything if it's not a tank. So these are in tank destroyers.
Doesn't count. Meh.
Yeah.
Also, another decent tank they've got for taking on any other tanks is I find the M3 Lee with the whole mount medium AT gun and a turret mount light AT gun. You can engage 2 tanks at once.
Yeah, that's quite cool.
I mean, it looks ridiculous, but it's quite cool.
You're also never getting to cover because your tank is as tall as Trump's wall.
Non-existent.
I thought they were just going to stack up M3 Lees on the border.
But they're Americans
trying to climb over it. You know,
they'll be Americans, so the guns will be facing towards Texas.
Another one you don't see, you got the bazooka jeep. I know it's not in the main book. Is it in the Battleground Europe book?
It's for the Battle of the Bulge.
I have never seen one in action, and I don't know
it's
why.
It's because you can only use it in the Rhineland or I think it might be the Normandy selector, but you can only use it in those 2.
The only way you can use it is those 2 selectors, or you've got to take an intelligence and research section, and not a lot of people take those.
Yeah.
Well, if you manage to fit it in your list, what is it? 6+? It's just a 6+ soft skin with 2 bazookas on it.
Yeah. I think it counts as 7+ from the front as well, so small arms can't hurt it.
Oh, that's cool. And I'm just saying, you can bring one in not one step back.
Yeah.
None of that shenanigans saying, "Oh, you have to use a certain selector." Nah, just bring one. I think it's really, really cool. I just like the idea of when you used to play Halo and you'd be in the Jeep and there'd be one guy in the back with his rockets just flinging it and flipping the vehicle over. It's
Yeah.
just like that.
I mean, I
So-
love that vehicle. It's just a shame that you can't take it in generic selectors. Otherwise, I would take them every time
We have
because
to
they're
come-
like
we have to-
90 points.
We have to use them now. You can use them at club, Dan. So you have to start get some.
I know.
Oh, here we go. Here we
To
go.
be-
It can be taken in as an armored car option in the Battle of Bulge or Rhineland theatre selectors by any. So not only is it those two theatre selectors, you must have an INR unit as well.
Oh,
What?
Yeah, it's a bit of a limitation. But I tell you what, though, like almost all of the Jeep options are good for the in terms of like small cheap transports. You've got so much flexibility in the American list that you just spoils the choice. Most of it's got recce as well. So
I'd say two standout points to say about transport options for the Americans. Don't go with the half track. It's a point sink.
yeah,
Because it's got like a HMG on it rather than MMG, means you're paying
Hold on.
more for a worse gun.
Before we move on to transports, are we not going to cover the meat chopper first?
Oh, go on then.
Oh, hang on. Before we even go near that, let's just mention that because we've been on about heavy tanks recently, the Pershing is actually quite a decent tank. I'll give it.
It's
Yeah,
400
it's just
points. Lots
very
of points.
expensive.
It's
Yeah,
a lot of points.
if you're prepared to drop the points for it, yeah, it's good. But it's not got the cool factor. If I'm spending 400 points on a tank, it's because I want a tank that's really cool and iconic, and the Pershing's
though
not
if
it.
if you're playing like a 2K tank war game, it's God mode because it will duel other tanks with that Gyro-Stablized. If you make it veteran for 500 points, it can outmaneuver and get side shots on other tanks with its super heavy AT gun.
Yeah.
That's very specific usage for the Pershing.
Yeah, it's if you're in massive games or if you're playing a very specific mission with a friend in your garage, fine, take one. But for competitive play, it just doesn't have enough shots on it really compared to some of the tanks. When you consider you can buy 3 MMG spam Stuarts for the same price, it's just no contest.
What do we think about the Sherman Jumbo?
I like it. I
Same.
wish it had a bigger than a medium AT gun, but I
Is
like
it a
it.
bit expensive? 300 points, isn't it, for a heavy tank with a regular gun?
265 regular.
Ah, okay.
With a
320
that
if you
comes
want to
with-
get it gyro.
It's,
yeah.
it's not a good
It
enough
easily
gun.
catches fire though, and it's slow.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're paying big dick tank points, aren't you? And you're not getting that return
Not
getting
got a
back.
big dick.
You
No.
can
Yeah.
buy it a heavy AT gun though, but you
But
lose
then it
the
loses the
special
extra
blast.
hits.
Yeah.
I will say I don't rate the Sherman 76mm. So that's the same as the normal Sherman, except it's a heavy gun rather than a medium. It's got the same 2-inch HE, but you're paying what 30 points for the +1 against other tanks. I just don't think it's worth it. I'd stay away from that.
It's like no one buys the Panzer III with the heavy gun. You either take a Panzer IV and suck up the extra points for the better tank, or you keep the medium.
Yeah.
Is there an option
Yeah.
for it? There's not an option for the Panzer III with heavy
Yeah,
guns.
you can. I think it's the L. You can give it a
Yeah,
a
that's
heavy.
the Luche. Wait,
No, the
Panzer-
Luche is
No.
a 2.
Oh, okay.
No, I
Yeah.
think there's a variant of the Panzer III that's got a heavy.
Hmm.
I think it has
Yeah,
a-
I think it's
it's
a
a
late war variant.
It's a reduced. We're talking about the wrong codex. Let's go back
Yeah.
to.
Okay, meat
so-
chopper.
So
One thing that jumped out to me just now was alright, it's a bit of a point sink for what you're doing, but 250 points for a Calliope. Alright, you can't fire
Calliope.
both the
Calliope.
same difference.
Yeah. It
We
is
have alternative facts.
it is
Fake
fantastic.
news.
Yeah, it is fantastic, except it would be if you could use both weapons in once. Then it would
It'd
be
also be
combo.
more than 350 points if you could use both weapons at
So
once.
it's a
Yeah,
normal
but you'd
it's a normal
happily pay
Sherman, which is the same as every other Sherman, except it also has a multi-launcher it can fire instead of the normal gun.
Yeah,
How
but
many
you
points-
can't fire it
can't
as
fire
well as
both.
the turret.
How many
No,
points do you pay above to have that multi-launcher from a normal Sherman?
50.
So you're paying 50 points for having a multi-launcher on your tank.
Yeah.
That sounds reasonably balanced. Don't like it.
I like it.
Yeah. Well, when you consider a Sherman is 200 and a multi-launcher is 52, 250 is exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, but you ain't gonna kill it easily. Not like a normal multi-launcher.
Got to factor in
Yeah.
that horse as well.
Oh, the horse
Yeah.
tank. It's like a 9+ tank of multi-launcher, so it's not
Yeah.
the easiest thing to get rid of. But it's probably
It's-
a bit too
it's-
expensive.
It's a lot of points for only ever hitting on 6s, though. That's the problem I have with it. Otherwise, it would be quite useful. If it was 200 points and you had the multi-launcher instead of the AT gun, fine, because you've still got the pin tool MMG, you've still got the hull MMG, You can still dish out a load of shots, but it's just not quite good enough for points. Right, meat chopper. So this thing, if you're planning on taking air observers as an American player, take a meat chopper because it is flak, and it is 4 HMGs strapped together on the back of a half track. So it's 125 points for 12 +1 shots, and you can even buy a Pintle MMG if you really wanted more shots as well. It's
just for a few more, eh?
Yeah, it's just an infantry unit deleter. If you can catch a unit of infantry in the open after it's maneuvered and it can't go down, pull this thing round a corner and gun it down with 12 HMG shots, and you'll be killing veterans on 4s, actually wounding them on 4s as well. It's just a fantastic unit, and it's quite cheap at 125 points. And because it's 7+, you're not going to get ganked by infantry as if you were a soft skin.
Controversial.
I mean, you are open topped, but you know.
I don't really rate it because it's H taking up your tank slot, which I'd normally prefer like a chaffee or like a machine gun spams to do it for that. And it's competing with the half track with a medium howitzer on it.
Yeah,
I prefer that.
The one thing I would say for these is there's a couple of special rules that you want to combine with these. So if you're using them, I would recommend actually making use of the modern communications rule. Outflank it so that when you're coming on the board, you're coming into the side armor of anything. And because of when we were at the WTC and when you play tournaments now, you'll find a lot of armor 7 and 8+, nothing above that. And this thing, when it's HMGs for +1 and in the side, and if you're fast enough, you could probably even get rear shots as well. 12 shots with a +2 or 3 is going to kill a vehicle every turn if you really need it to.
Yeah,
and it's not that easy to kill back. But its biggest strength is deleting squads.
See, that M16 meat chopper is quite nice, but the M15 for me jumps out a bit more because it's got the turret-mounted heavy automatic cannon. It's only 2 HMGs with it, and it's 10 points more.
The gun's rear-mounted though.
No,
it's turret mounting.
Turret mounted.
Isn't the
The
turret
only
facing
heavy
backwards, though?
automatic.
Yeah, but it's classed as 360.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
The
rules don't follow the model then.
No.
Yeah.
The problem is all of those weapons are one system. So you have to shoot your automatic cannon and your HMGs at the same thing. So if you wanted to kill like a 9+ vehicle in the side, your HMGs aren't really going to do much except put a pin on it.
I mean, I'd rather just have a chaffee.
Yeah.
It's just when you around that 150 point mark, the Stuart and the chaffee just come above as like your best options.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of things in here as well that a lot of people take. So things like the M8 Greyhound and the Scout car, stuff like that.
I see a lot of Greyhounds. It doesn't scare
They
me.
are shit. They are absolutely shit. People do not take them. When you log online and people says, "Oh, the first thing I put in my army list is an M8 Greyhound," do not listen to them. They are overpointed for what they are, and they do not do much.
Take a Jeep.
Just be
Take an
careful.
MMG Jeep for your armored car.
Yeah. Well, for 5 points more, you can get an 8+ Stuart with already 12 shots on it, and it's infinitely better.
Also,
So yeah.
my final point on vehicles as well. Never pay the 25 points for a Pintle HMG. Never do it.
Oh,
No.
never. No.
Never.
No.
25 points is horrendously overpriced for a garbage weapon.
Check the FAQ, guys, as well, because a lot of this book only have the option to put a Pintle HMG on it, and in the FAQ they've actually added in a bunch of MGs as Pintle options as well. So you can get Pintle mounts for pretty much all the tanks now. So double check that as well.
So transports then? Can I go back to my point? I was going to make all those sizes. So the two main transports, the half track, avoid. It's too expensive. It comes with a HMG, which means it's like more expensive than the equivalent Hanamag, and it's a point trap because it tempts you to buy those extra 2 MMGs on it, which means your transport ends up costing like 130 points.
They can buy up to 3 more. Jesus.
Yeah, it's. It looks
And they're
good, but you
stupid
spend
as
so
well
many
because
points
they
on it.
only cover certain arcs. So you have like one in the front, one in the left, one in the right, one in the rear. So without driving into the middle and doing a fucking spinning kick, you're not going to get to fire all of your weapons anyway.
The same
It's
problem
pointless.
It's the same problem as all half tracks. It doesn't matter who has them. That your transports in bolt action do one of two things. They either hide off the board in reserve until they bring a squad on to do something later in the game, or they deliver one squad to a point on the battlefield and then hide. And a half track is a way more expensive way of doing that than a simple truck or jeep. And they're not survivable enough to stick around with infantry in. They're just not worth it at all.
They've got one of my favourite transport vehicles, or like most cost efficient, which is it the Dodge 1.5 ton truck, the 8-man capacity one?
Oh, the big jeep.
The
The
big
three-quarter, yeah.
Is that it? Yeah. Just because 8-man squad, you don't want to take a 12-man squad because it's just too big and it's a bit wieldy and you spend too many points. A 5-man squad is a bit too small. 8-man squads is like my favourite squad size. And if you have to buy them a truck, you're paying for capacity you're not going to use. So if you get the big jeep, it's the most cost-efficient transport you can buy for a unit of that size.
Absolutely. It's the unit I wish that the Germans had.
Oh, I look at the field car and cry because it's only got 6-man capacity, which just isn't quite enough for me. I need it to be 8.
Yeah, this is exactly it. As the Germans, you've got things that have a capacity of 3, things that have a capacity of 5 and 6, and then suddenly you're at 12. There's no middle ground. Of course, you've also got 20 with the Landwäscherschlepper or whatever that is. But basically, what you want is something that transports 8 to 10, and the Americans have it.
Yeah.
I look at this 3/4 ton truck, and the Japanese have this, but it's just called a light truck.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
exactly
jelly
the
that
same.
you have it as well then.
Well, the best thing about this as well is when the Dodgers finish delivering those 8 men, you can put an MMG on it, so it can just sit there as a fire base, throwing more pins. So again, back to the I had 3 engineer squads with flamethrowers as 8 men in 3 Dodge trucks with MMGs on. Every single thing was just pinning at the game as quickly as.
You can afford and justify the MMG though because of the points you're saving by having the slightly smaller truck. So it's something only you can do.
When you consider you don't have to pay the extra points to get the 39-point transport, which is a 12-man, saving 8 points on that, and when you don't have to buy your squad's SMGs because of the fire and maneuver, the MMGs on these trucks are basically free.
So staying on transports, right? If you want to put all of your eggs in one basket and you want to put 30 dudes in one transport, that water buffalo is bloody
The
brilliant.
LVT4, yeah. It's huge.
This is your, I have to take a transport for all of my tank platoons. Okay then.
Okay.
The water buffalo
yeah.
can carry a jeep, but there's no rules for how a jeep is transported. Like, so if the jeep's in the water buffalo and the water buffalo dies, how does the damage go in the jeep? Does the jeep take a D6 hits? What happens if it has to disembark? I'm so confused.
It turns into that White Lotus from James Bond, and all the wheels slide up, and it becomes a fan, and just goes.
I'm pretty sure there's an
to the beach.
FAQ that allows the British to take one and then put a Bren carrier in it, and that confuses me even more. It's more writing rules for things that don't exist.
Wait, hang on. Can you put a Bren carrier in it? Does that mean you can put 2 Bren carriers in it with one squad split between both Bren carriers inside another transport? By the way,
so many rules.
By the way, do all of those guys suffer from tiger fear if there's a tiger on the board?
Yes.
Yes, they do.
I think I'm not 100% certain on this, but there might be a water buffalo like this in one of the theatre books that can carry a Sherman.
There probably is, because there was one in real life.
And also, there's a bunch of the like the Cullen hedgerow cutter, and I can't remember the British engineer's name, but he did all the fancy tanks with all
Hobart
the
fun is.
Yeah, the Hobart
Yeah.
Funnest. Yeah, there's loads of them for the Americans where you can get like landing craft Sherman with water wings and like flotation devices and stuff like that. So they're quite cool. But the only problem is they obscure your line of sight.
No.
Ugh.
But, I
So you have to take Gyro-Stablized to
Yeah.
avoid being shot by a fucking rubber
those
ducky.
LVTs look cool, but I think they're a bit too expensive.
Yeah,
And there's a bit too
cool,
many
aren't
eggs
they?
in one basket.
Yeah.
So, any closing thoughts? We've not really done theatre selectors, but they're kind of all the same in that just take one of everything except bazookas where you can have 2. That's
I
basically
think that I was gonna say, I think the line in our notes covers it. Selectors ? Market garden, Otherwise, no. That's all we need to say.
Yeah.
The market garden selectors are horrendous, but they're not horrendous because they're American. They're horrendous because they let you be American and take British stuff as well. So they kind of break the game somewhat.
Yeah, if you're playing Americans, there's one selector in market, but it lets you take all of the veteran infantry, 2 howitzers, and 2 anti-tank guns, and a bazooka, and a free British artillery observer, and a Dutch resistance squad, which is a free, a 5-man inexperienced squad that no Germans can use the hidden setup rules. It is the best theatre selector out there by a mile
And
for the
that's why
Americans.
that book's normally banned in most events.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say you're wrong, because the Normandy selector allows you to take a boat.
Also, the Normandy one lets you take 2 flamethrowers as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
all
probably
of the
best selector.
Americans are exactly the same, except they let you take 2 of every weapon team in a certain order. So, like, the North Africa is 2 mortars, the Guadalcanal is 2 bazookas, the Normandy one is 2 flamethrowers. There's one of them that's 2 machine gun teams, and so on and so on.
So
They're
6
all
machine
Just
gun
take up to
teams.
6 machine guns.
Yeah, it's like that guy at Cambridge did, didn't he? And he won best theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's really.
Don't even go there. No, stop.
Triggered.
So we're basically agreed, aren't we, in summary, that if you want to write an effective American list, you take as many forward air observers as your selector allows.
Spam machine guns.
Yeah, you spam machine guns and buy them transports with 4 MMGs each.
And
you
buy a
absolutely
500-point jumbo.
Yeah, and you buy a jumbo to support them. Perfect. It's 6 dice, and you'll win everything you do.
Yeah.
And the realistic answer of we're all in agreement. I think it's just a nice solid book, isn't it? And I think it's easy to use. You don't have to you don't have to think too hard about what you want to do. I think you can just rock up if everyone brought the most average list they possibly could. The Americans will probably do quite well out of that.
Yeah. Well, the thing that stands out for me with the Americans is they have all of the basic choices that all the other armies have. Their universal rules make them head and shoulders above those in terms of an equal thing. But where a new player can get the most out of this book is there aren't the options in there for all of the toys like the Germans and the Soviets and sometimes even the Japanese with like the grenadiers with the light mortars, spam and stuff like that. And that helps new players because they can only choose the basic weapons. They don't have to worry about all the extra special rules. They can just learn all these basics. And then with the universal special rules they have, or the army special rules they have, they're very, very forgiving.
Agreed. It's rare that we all agree on something. Does anyone want to throw something controversial in before we go on to the next segment?
You must make every lieutenant look like Donald Trump. There you go.
There is a Donald Trump model out there somewhere, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
We've got one. It's Mr. Blobby.
Do you get a -1 when trying to shoot him because his orange skin reflects the sunlight and it just glints and you can't see?
You get a -1 for looking at that smug, cheesy fucker twat's face. It just makes you angry and tense.
And does he automatically buy every medic on the opposing side? Because that is apparently an option on the trade deal.
You automatically win against armies of China.
China.
It's not China, it's Gina.
I'm sorry, China. God rescue Melania. Right, this is getting awfully political. We gotta stop getting like political. We might upset someone.
Shut your damn mouth.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next segment of our podcast, which is What the Fact, What the FAQ. And my goodness me, that's correct.
What the fact?
Why did you introduce this section as hello, everybody? They've been listening for an hour and a half.
Well, I'm not so arrogant as I think they've sat down and done it all in one marathon. I'm assuming that they've just done the USA bit and they've left it and you've come back to it and this is a new day. You're on your commute.
If you're assuming that our listeners have anything better to do than listen to us amazing podcast hosts, you are out of your mind.
I didn't derail the bit that you introduced.
That's because I did it professionally.
They sat down and gone, I'm going to paint, I'm going to listen to these idiots. And they're still painting. Why are we doing a
This is why
Halloween?
you never. This is why you never paint, Sheffy, because you give up after like the second segment. You need to sit there for an entire Juggernaut podcast episode is how the minimum amount you should be doing in a painting session. It's the standard unit of measurement.
No, the reason Sheffield doesn't paint is because he paints Theoden, loses a game horribly where he gets spanked by elves, throws a hissy fit, and then never paints again.
I didn't throw a hissy fit against you.
No, he didn't. He didn't throw a hissy fit.
I enjoy Lord of the Rings. It's all love and roses and kisses. Where were we? Oh yes, I was talking about how much feedback we'd got, because we've actually got tons. Like, we get quite a bit of feedback every month. This time we've got, well, it's an absolutely massive chunk that I'm looking at in front of us, and so we'll take the first bit. And first up from the feedback, it was Eric Brown. And he asks us, he wants to know how to build a Panzer Grenadier list when everything is so expensive. And he gave feedback telling us that our quality is really good. And it shows we're learning how to use our software better. And yes, we would just like to say to you, Eric Brown, that we don't know what you're listening to, because we have done probably about 2 or 3 times as much recorded material as you've actually heard. Because it keeps getting lost, deleted, or it's just of such poor quality that we just can't bear to give it to you. We appreciate the comment. We just think that you're trying to suck up too much, because this is trash. And you know,
you get the volumes mixed up, and then one person will start like just echoing, and then the internet will cut out. We'll lose Sheffield for half an episode because he fucks off.
Somebody's potato will turn off.
Yeah, my potato computer catches fire every 20 seconds.
We have to back it up.
I'm genuinely impressed that we've managed to get anything of quality out.
I was just going to say, the answer to your first question, though, before we moan about the quality of what we've been producing for a bit longer, is how you build Panzer Grenadier lists when everything is so expensive. The simple answer is you don't, or you give up on trying to get Hanamags and half-tracks in and just take trucks and do Panzer Grenadiers and trucks.
I had a bit of an email exchange. Go into a bit further detail than we're going to go into now. And what I did to recommend was be really stringent about set yourself like a limit of how much you're going to spend on your infantry and your transports. So I was basically saying, don't buy squads worth 150 points because you just don't have the points for that. So if you set yourself a limit of, say, at most any squad's not going to cost me more than 100 points, 3-4 squads suddenly, so you've only spent 300, 400 points, not 700, 800 points. I also recommended probably doing a tank list, simply because then you max it at 3 squads, so you don't have to take too many squads, and also it means you've got the tanks to actually like help, if that makes sense. Now, don't go expensive tanks, you don't have the points for it. You just need to have you need to be really careful when you're building this, because costs spiral really quickly.
Yeah, it really is mad. And I mean, the Western Desert book is the place to look for mechanized infantry lists with cheapish infantry. But then yeah, exactly. But then you're restricting yourself too much by the amount of things you can take. Your best option is to take a generic selector if you don't care too much about themed, or an armored one.
The best option is go to the new one, the new Hungarian book, Budapest, because they've got the new Panzer Grenadier rules.
Oh, that is true. I haven't been too familiar with those.
So basically, the Panzer Grenadier rules are they can re-roll any failed order check to do an advance or run order from outside of a transport, disembark. Also, their German officers can snap from inside a transport vehicle.
Ah, that's worth it. The other bit, you were talking about re-rolling the checks. I was like, I'm not too bothered. If my units are pinned in a transport, they're probably not going to be getting out anytime soon anyway.
If you've got a first lieutenant in a transport, that's 3 snaps while you're mounted, so you can use 1 snap to drive the vehicle forward. You can do 1 snap to drive the vehicle forward, do another snap to get the unit out of the vehicle, and then flamethrower something, and a 3rd snap to bring the tank up behind.
Yeah, generally the answer is it's very hard to do. You're playing the game on hard mode if you want actual Panzer Grenadiers and half-tracks, but there are ways to fudge it. You just have to be careful.
Yeah,
they're more useful at larger points values, aren't they? So when you get to like maybe 1,500 or 2,000 points, spending the extra 20 or 30 points per unit to take the Grenadier squads is actually a bit better, actually more worth it, because they're a bit more survivable in the half tracks at bigger points against. But 1,000 points and below, no, you can do basically the same thing with generic infantry and trucks.
It is rule of cool, though. It will look brilliant.
Well, from what he was saying, he got a good deal, basically, which included a load of half-tracks from his friendly local gaming store. So I think he got like a big box, and they just came in there. So he's like, right, I've got them, so how am I going to make them work? So
Yeah.
practice, and be a tight arse when spending
No,
points.
if you've got them all already, take 2 minimum squads each. So put 2 in one half track, and then use the other spare half tracks to put mortars in them, and use them as mortar half tracks, or convert them to stummels. That'll do it.
But yeah, my final thing is to go back to the quality thing. Is I'm actually, although we are really shit, and we're nowhere near as good as half these other podcasts out there. Like if you want to listen to a decent production, listen to like Cast Dice. Don't listen to me. But we're still doing better now than we were. And I really hate that when people obviously listen to the Juggernaut podcast, they start with episode 1 because fuck me, that's atrocious. That is disgusting.
That episode.
So
episode 2 still pisses me off.
If you're going to recommend us to anyone, get them to listen to the current episodes. They're all more up to date. We're a bit better now. We're in the flow of things. It's not as if we have like a long story where you need to begin at the start. We just talk shit every week. So get them to get hooked on like the newer ones, and then go back and listen to the shit when you're ready.
All right.
And if you really don't like them, recommend War HQ.
Oh, shots fired. So just to move on to the next piece of feedback. Was I the only one that the other week I was sat there, painting models and chilling out, and all of a sudden my phone exploded?
Yeah, I got about 15 notifications.
I finished work, looked at my phone I had, and I kid you not, I've got a screenshot of it, 152 notifications from this man.
It's nuts. I was there like, I had to put my phone down because it's like I just can't. No, I can't look at it. No. It's still coming. I'd get rid of 8 or 9, and 8 or 9 would pop back up, and it's like, oh god.
Mr. Stephen Bonner is a famous man in Scotland, and I've never met him, but he is known across the world for being a very strange man when it comes to bolt action, because you've gone back and literally liked and shared every single thing that the Juggernauts have ever posted on their page. Now,
it was brilliant.
I have no fucking idea, you crazy man. But there you go. Literally, liked and shared everything.
Everything.
And
every like and every share, all 4 of us got a notification for.
Yeah.
It was like when the rat's in the cage and he hits the button, he gets a treat, and then he just learns to just hit that button forever. That's obviously what he's doing. Someone says, every time you like a Juggernaut podcast poke, someone's going to touch your willy, and he's just like, oh yeah, and just touches that like button over and over and over.
They're going to touch my willy.
That's the only
maybe he's after that. Maybe he's after that 4th hosting spot, and he thinks if he does all this promo stuff up north, he can take Sheffield's place and be our northern representative.
So yeah, crazy man. We got a message from Jamie Bryce. So this guy's a new player. He's only recently got into bolt action. He's painting his very first army, and as he's listening to us, he wants to know where to share his own pledges. So does he post on the page, or is there a group?
I'd reckon post on the page.
Yeah, post. I mean, if there's enough demand, we can make a group. We can call it the Hobby Lobby group, and you can go in and post stuff. But just post it on our page, and if we like it, we'll share it. I guess we haven't really thought about it too much.
We'll think about it in the next few days.
I really want to see some more other people's pledges. I want to see what everyone else is getting up to. And you
gotta love the blobby, the blobby lob.
And he did say that the problem with our cast is that he has to wait between episodes.
Yay!
Mate, get a fucking life. Get a life. Roll some dice. Go to the pub, bang your missus. There's so much stuff you can do other than listening to our cast.
No. If he's waiting in between episodes, be like Stephen Bonner and share everything. Get some notifications out there.
Apparently, you do get sexual gratification for every like button you press.
Yeah,
it's scientific.
Only if it's a Juggernaut Bolt Action podcast, like and share though.
Yeah. Don't like War HQ. Screw those guys.
Back in home territory, Toph.
Yeah. Right, moving on. So we've got a message from Andrew Tarrant, who says that he was 5 or 6 games into bolt action now and absolutely loving it, and he's managed to convince his wife to convert the garage into a gaming room.
Gaming garage!
Congratulations, mate.
Well done. That's how it starts.
It's fantastic. Yeah, all you need to do now is get her to play with you as well, and you're all set. He sent through 750 point GT list to criticise or comment and critique rather. and said, "What do you think of assault squads versus fire support squads?" So, like we were saying earlier, creating a firing line, standing still, or being really aggressive. Again, it depends on your play style. And he says, "What do you put in them?" Again, depends on your play style. Depends on what what army you're taking. So Americans don't
What American
have
you're
it.
taking?
Yeah.
Is it redneck?
Yeah. If you're Americans, you don't have the options, as say like a Soviet platoon does. So it depends on that as well.
I do like the idea of building squads for specific functions, but I just prefer the flexibility. And the things you want in a fire support squad, which are LMGs, are just too expensive to make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit hesitant because my fire support squads, I just want rifles. Like I just want like a Canadian man squad with rifles. That's all I want. I don't want anything more than that because they're too expensive.
Yeah, he does go on to say, what are your opinions on proxying? Because his example was he was having British paratroopers modelled using the American paratroopers. That's not too bad. Ask the TO first. Get permission before you take the models down. Sometimes if there's not a massive difference in the models, you can get away with it as long as you explain to your opponent before the game what's actually going on with the models that you're counting as. But if you're taking Russian winter infantry and you're counting them as Gurkha native of irregulars, then something's gone a bit wrong there and you need to buck your ideas up.
I want to hear Sheffy's opinion. He loves Sheffy. He loves having opinions. What's your opinion on proxying, Sheff?
It's completely fine. I'm quite happy to see proxy stuff in. I mean, like you've been playing for the last couple of years with badly painted models, proxying as half models. I do have an actual opinion on the assault squads versus fire support, which is that every squad is an assault squad. So even if it's just got rifles, in fact, even if it doesn't have rifles, it's like Strafbath or something, there will be a game when the moment is right to lob that thing into combat. So don't think that a fire support or a squad that's designed to be shooty heavy can't hold its own in combat. Everything in bolt action is fundamentally the same, and I've seen inexperienced squads just jump unlucky officers or vehicles. So don't think you can play a gun line in bolt action because everything's capable of moving and messing you up if the dice are right.
I'd just say skip the LMGs.
Yeah,
skip the LMGs.
I would say, bearing in mind you're only 5 or 6 games into bolt action, I would take the squads as a mix of everything. Put a couple of SMGs in and use those as your assault squads. Just have rifle squads with maybe 1 LMG, just so you can learn the basics and you can see how shit those options actually are. But I wouldn't go for like an 8-man all SMG squad and try running it at the opponent, because it will get gunned down before it even gets there, as your opponent should do. So I would aim to get your squads as a bit of a Swiss Army knife of doing a bit of everything but not quite being a master at something.
I will say we're answering this question badly because I'm about to jump back in with proxying opinions. We need to work this shit out, guys. So proxying, as long as it's clear, I'm down with it.
Yeah.
As long as you know what things are and it makes logical sense, that's fine. So if you've got British paratrooper models and you're using them as US paratroopers, couldn't give a fuck, mate. That's fine. A dude's a dude with a rifle, it's fine. What would annoy me would be if you're using one of those market garden selectors with British and American paratroopers in the same list, and I've got to try and work out which one's which. Fuck that.
Yeah, you'll work out which one's getting the rifle rule and which isn't.
The case in point is like say the British Army. There's so many options, different nations, different this. You can change your entire army by changing what country you are. Do you really expect someone to paint a brand new identical army in a different shade of beige because you've gone from Indian and now you're South African?
Yeah, you Canadian Indians.
Mate, it's a British army. I mean, the people won't be necessarily think the same with me, which is why I'd always say don't ask the Juggernauts, ask the TO, because ultimately they're the guys you have to answer. But like, a tank's a tank, a guy with a rifle's a rifle. So as long as it makes sense you're not taking the piss, I don't see why people should get hard up about it.
As long as the guy's armed the same, I don't really care. If you're saying this guy with a SMG is actually a dude with a pistol, I'm there like, wait, what?
And
No.
how many times has it been where there's like a very specific tank which doesn't have rules, so you just take a tank that kind of fits and use that? It's like if I with my Canadians, when I finally get round to getting a Ram model, now the Ram, no one makes a Ram model because they never fought in the war, but it'd still be cool just to have a model, so I just use it as a Sherman. Is someone really going to go, that's a Ram tank, not a Sherman tank? It's like, no, fuck off, it's fine. At least that's my opinion on it.
Yeah, as well as Luke's home guard, like one of our people that we play regularly with, has got like a completely crazy British army. It's got like nuns and police officers and like weird stuff in it, but basically you know what everything is, so and that's how you do it well. I'm not slagging Luke off, I'm saying he's done it well, that you know that the weird things are X unit and he doesn't change it, so you're not having to have that moment of confusion, which is when proxying gets odd, when something looks like something but actually it's something else. So long as you know what it is, it's fine.
And as long as you steer away from having like you're having a Stuart that is a Sherman, because those are two very clear things that both have options, if that makes sense. It should be used for things where there isn't a necessary good option, or whether that there's only one way it could be, if that makes sense. Like if you have an Indian army and you're using like, I don't know, South African rules, there's no doubt what rule they're going to have. You know what I mean? The moment you see the army, it's there, it's clear. So just those sort of ones, yeah, fine.
It depends where you want to draw the line. I mean, aren't the Romanian and Hungarian armies basically proxy Germans being a minor power?
Basically, yeah.
So it's like, if you start being too, or you can't do that unless it's exactly accurate, then suddenly, actually, you can't play some of the armies in the game.
Well, I mean, like, the late war French army and the US army effectively have the same models, because it's just late war French American uniforms. So if Dan rocked up with his American army and went, by the way, for today I'm playing these as late war French, fine, go ahead, it's the same models. I know they're late war French. Now, as long as halfway through the game he doesn't turn around and go, well, actually they're Americans.
No,
there's no problem there.
He wouldn't say that. It's Dan. Just halfway through they'd start moving and shooting with no penalty.
and he'd always tell you, no, they're American from the start.
Basically, write it on your list, ask the TO up front, and write it on your list so it's really clear. So you know if there's like some notes, just put in big letters, this tank is a which represents a you know what I mean? So for those for the British paratroopers as American paratroopers one, right at the top of the list I'd put in big writers, their models are British paratroopers but they represent American troopers, you know what I mean? Make it really bloody clear.
Dan, is this the guy that sent us that terrifying image?
Yeah, so the last note of his as well, his wife is pregnant. Congratulations, Andrew.
Congrats.
Put a lock on your new gaming garage. Make sure it's a lock on the inside and only you have the key for it, so no one can come and disturb you. But he said he's got a Mr. Blobby plushie toy for the baby. Soothe it. And if you don't call it Sheffield, I'm going to be pissed off.
Soothe it, scar it for life, more
it's just like a crying baby. You know what you need? You need a giant Mr. Blobby in the face.
Blobby.
That's terrible. Do we need to like ring up social services? Because this man's fucking what?
To be fair,
Blobby is a national treasure.
Yeah, but you don't see your kids with it.
Oh no.
It's terrible.
I didn't even know Mr. Blobby plushies were a thing. Apparently, you can buy them off eBay for ridiculous sums of money.
When's your birthday, Toph?
No, yeah, not into that.
When's your son's birth?
Oh
no.
No. That one is coming up.
So, we had a message from Kim Nielsen from the Netherlands.
I can't live if living is without you. That's Nielsen, isn't it?
I have no idea.
It better be after that little rendition.
Now I'm going to assume I'm going to sound like Sheffield being Piers Morgan here. I'm going to assume that Kim is a boy.
Shocker.
Yes, he is.
I mean, I'd like to see some more female gamers in the wargaming hobby, but we don't tend to have them as much. And I think with the Netherlands, they have some name switch. So I'm going to assume it's a boy. If it's Mrs. Kim, I'm sorry. If it's Mr. Kim, hello. Anyway, enjoys listening to our cast. Shut you.
I love that Toph's default position is apologising to women.
I'm English.
wife
It's
is
what
taught
we
him well.
do.
His wife has taught him very well.
I'm sorry for many things. I'm sorry for me. I'm sorry for this podcast. I'm sorry for Brexit. You know, I'm so sorry.
But we're sorry for Nigel Farage.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for Sheffield.
What, the city or the host?
Both. Yeah.
Anyway, Kim enjoys listening to our cast, and he hasn't been playing Blood Auction for a number of years, but he's gotten back into it as his grandson wanted to play something other than computer games. Which is fair. Good lad, it's fair. Start him off good. So it's the grandson's birthday in 2 weeks, and he has a US army. He wants to know what should he get him. So they want to refight Normandy, so he needs to sort out some Germans. So what do they get? Now, I've got a list of what they've currently got. So Kim has got, with his Germans, he's got 10 Waffen-SS cavalry dudes, a Charlemagne squad, Pack 40, MMG, HQ, sniper, flamethrower, Panzerschreck, motorbike, and then a plastic squad. And his grandson has got 2 Ranger boxers, an M4A1 Sherman, and that's it. Yeah. So a couple of squads and a tank.
But those Ranger boxes are like 30 dudes, aren't they?
I think so.
Yeah, 24 in each. Yeah.
So basically, Kim's got all the toys, but none of the infantry.
Yeah.
And his grandson's got all the infantry and none of the toys.
I think his grandson's got a really good start there, though.
Yeah.
Got all the infantry. They're all going to be firing moving. They're all Rangers. It's all good.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd add a light tank. That's the first thing I'd stick in
He's
there.
got a Sherman.
Got a Sherman.
Yeah.
No, I'd give him a Stuart.
I know. Maybe
You can make everything else from the Ranger boxes.
I mean, the only things I'd want is the things you can't make. So, like a mortar and a flamethrower.
Yeah.
Mortar, yeah.
Yeah, well, you can make bazookas, you can make sniper teams from the weapons sprues that are in the Ranger box.
You can make forward air observers.
If you still have them. So as long as you've got those bits, you can make them. Yeah, get him a mortar or a howitzer, get him a flamethrower, and then he's got a bit of everything then, and he's good enough to go with the stuff that you've already detailed there. So
Get him tickets to the GT where he can come and meet all of us.
yeah.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah.
Get him tickets to Not One Step Back.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Young blood and hobby, good times. I mean, I think the trip from the Netherlands might be quite difficult, but it's all good. I mean,
well, if you can get over from the Netherlands, free entry for you, Kim, and your grandson.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing your grandson to diversify his hobbies from computer games, just have fun with it. You know what I mean? You don't need to be like, what's the best thing ever?
Take 4 air observers.
Yeah, take the half track. Take the MMG team, because you're not playing to. I don't know. You might be playing to fuck over your grandson. But...
No, he's not. He's got
to lose properly.
No, he's got a German army with a Pack 40 and an MMG. He's not playing to win.
That's why he listens to this podcast, so he can get better to smack his grandson.
Do you reckon his grandson listens to this podcast? I don't know if we're really geared for child listening. I think we talk too much about dicks and cunts and shit.
I think you're just
We've done
assuming.
really well without a dick joke up until now.
You're just assuming that grandson implies that he's talking about a little one. Like, his grandson could be 20 and Kim could be like 80. Kim could be a veteran of the war.
I don't think there'd be many veterans who'd want to listen to us of all people. I think we're a bit rude and horrible.
Well, you got a point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. We need more information.
I'm always excited to see young blood in the hobby, though. New people that have got a new enthusiasm for it is fantastic.
That we can kill it by making them play Toph at their first event.
Yeah.
I am a fucking delight. We've got some new people coming to club who are quite young, just doing their GCSEs. And it's good to see that the hobby's not going to die with us. You know what I mean? Like, we're not all going to die of old age and then suddenly there's no hobby. And that's what's the lifeblood, isn't it? Is the young, the youthful, moving up.
It's always new players.
I hope the young blood you're talking about isn't Anthony. He's older than all of us.
No. Also, it was
Also, on the topic of Toph being a delight, he did get 30 out of 30 sportsmanship. He is a delight.
It's all. I don't know how he does it. Like, he's got a painting award for Pete's sake.
You know what?
What about me?
How about turns out I'm just your average dude who likes to make dick jokes, and loves to go down on his horse.
I can't throw stones at your sportsmanship after Kill Team Gate.
Kill Team Gate. Oh dear. Oh, what have we got left then?
Right, so next one we had a message just today actually from Ben Amant, not sure how you pronounce the last one. He just wanted to drop us a line and say, thanks guys for making such an awesome podcast. You're welcome. He says, because of you chuckle fucks, I'm committing to getting into bolt action. Now, I just want to know, which one of us is Barry Chucklefuck and which one of us is Paul Chucklefuck?
Can I be Barry Chucklefuck? I love a good bit of Barry.
Can I be the one that's not a paedophile?
Can I be the one that wasn't
cremated? Oh, you nutcase.
They look like paedophiles, though. You know what I mean? If Jimmy Savile is, they definitely are.
I don't know.
Well,
if bloody Ken Barlow touches
actually...
kids, they definitely do.
You know, the Chuckle Brothers are actually one of they're 2 of 4 as well.
Oh,
it's like the
Dan
Beatles for child television.
Dan is definitely the one of us who looks most like a Chuckle Brother.
Fuck off.
So, American viewers, the Chuckle Brothers is another national treasure of our British childhood, just like the Hobby Lobby. And it was a TV show about 2 men who didn't know how to claim benefits properly and just never had proper jobs. And
made up their own jobs.
And made up their own jobs and was very inept at carrying things around. That's all I remember.
They made a career off of 3 words. To me, to you. That's it.
Imagine Mr. Bean if there was 2 of them and they spoke.
Oh,
yeah.
That's kind of the Sugar Brothers, isn't it?
They're like a slightly less gay but slightly more creepy version of Bert and Ernie.
And if you ever, they did have a children's TV show called Chuckle Vision. If you ever get to see it, and think, oh look, there's if you ever get to see it, right, and think, oh look, there's other male actors in here that aren't the Chuckle Brothers. No, that's their elder brothers.
YouTube it.
Are all the same family.
Do you think that...
And if you can follow them on Twitter as well, I don't know which one of them's alive, whether it's Barry or Paul.
Paul's alive. Barry died.
When one of them died and the other one got cremated, the other one put a picture of him by a furnace and just taking Barry out to get burnt tonight. It was horrendous.
He's allowed to make those jokes.
Yeah, it's fine. Anyway, back to this before we go too far off topic. He's saying that he used to be big into 40k, like everyone used to be, and then it all got fucked up. And then he lost it all in a house fire.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Maybe Barry Chuckle was in the house at the same time and would have saved on cost.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So he says that this is his jump off point back into the hobby by listening to this podcast. He says the podcast reminds him of an old 40k UK podcast which he loved. Keep up the good work, guys. He says, I'd really like you guys to do an army review of the Italians.
Rubbish. Done.
Yeah. Because none of us play Italian, we can only give our opinions on what we think as a kind of a third party perspective without actually having to know what's actually in there. But he says he's committed to learning them and he's committed to taking the flame tankettes and the stupid feather hats. So we will get to Italians. Yeah, we will get to Italians at some point. But for now, I think we'll try and hit some of the more major armies first, and then we'll get onto that one in the end.
I mean, I would say...
Just a quick note on the Italians is avoid high dice lists. You want low dice lists with lots of vets around and lots of kind of biggish squads because you don't want to be screwed by your own special rule.
Yeah.
I mean, I was gonna say, like the thing with bolt action is loads of rules and tactics are transferable. Like, you can listen to what we said about the American, army book and think, what of this can I take back from an Italian perspective? So even if we might not necessarily do the Italian book, you can at least take all the extra bits, like how to use flamethrowers, how to use snipers, especially when we do just the tip, and then you only have to fill in the gaps. So you know, go for it. And we'll probably do, once one of us gets an Italian army, probably when Warlord finally released Plastic Italians, hashtag get on with it. Probably then, but not. I keep telling Juggernaut Grimes he needs to play Italians, and he's not worked yet. I
can't
convince him harder.
I can't imagine the salt after the first 2 turns if he's doing that.
No, he was on about doing a fully mounted motorcycle army, and then got very upset that it would cost him £100 of just motorcycles alone. And if you can't do motorcycles, then there's no point existing apparently. So that's why that project got called off.
Oh.
So yeah.
Poor Grimes.
I spoke to Ben a bit because when he said that he lost his models in a fucking fire, I was like, well, that's a fucking story, isn't it? Turns out he'd lent all of his models to his mate so his mate could run a campaign, and then his mate's house burnt down with his models in it.
Oh, unlucky.
So it's like, fuck. I hope they're still friends. Because like, if my models burnt down in Pete's house, and Pete just went, sorry mate, I'm like, well, I'm having your fucking TV off you as revenge, you know what I mean?
Sure, you can have the TV that's the burnt husk in there, whatever.
Next time we're at the pub, you're fucking paying, mate.
And the time after that, and the time after that.
Hey Pete, can I have my 57th round, please?
No, my house burnt down, dickhead.
Insurance payout?
I've gone to some pretty
Insurance
significant lengths to provide an excuse for not having painted my models, but burning my own house down.
Burning your mate's house down to do it.
That is next level.
It's because he'd mixed Custodes with Eldar bullshit, so he thought, I'm having none of this.
I was going to say, was it back in 5th Ed with the Dread Knight, the baby carrier, and they just couldn't cope with the salt.
Yeah.
It just triggered a house fire, obviously. But Ben, you're going to absolutely love bolt action. I promise you, you're going to have so much fun. So
and if you
good
don't,
luck.
please email into Toph, telling him how wrong he is if you don't have fun.
Please tell me how wrong I am at juggernautwargaming@gmail.com. Also, don't worry about your bolt action like burning to ground, because it only costs you 20p for a bolt action army. You'll be fine. Just go, oh, well, that's a fucking shame, innit? And then just, you know, if you walk to the shop, if you pick up every penny you walk over, by the time you get to the shop, you can buy yourself a starter army.
Not if he's Italians, because they're all metal.
Bim to
Buy
the
a proper army.
Yeah. Well, if you stop fucking eating so much pizza and pasta, you might be able to fucking afford an army. For every Domino's you have, that's like 30. You can have 30 models per Domino's pizza. So
if you stop buying petrol to burn all your friends' houses down, you'd have plenty.
Oh, some fiery responses here.
It's all fake news. It wasn't a fire. It was a hurricane.
It was Mexicans crossing the border doing it.
Yeah. It's the Mexicans did it.
See, I burned your house down.
Guys.
See, it's Templo del Fuego.
Oh no,
What was
I can't
that?
be
Oh,
bothered.
no. Please stop. Please stop.
So, and the final question. So, Craig Moore messages us. Wants to know our thoughts on running MSU British in Bren carriers. Can it work? So this is a similar question to the Panzer Grenadiers, but from a British perspective, I guess. Can you make an army fully mounted on Bren carriers?
Only if your 3 tanks in your tank platoon are machine gun stewards.
I think it can. I think with the Panzer Grenadiers, you need to do the same thing where you need to be really militant about how many points you're spending on squads. I've seen a couple of units like do commandos in Brens, but it's for both the Bren and the commandos. It's like
a lot.
It's 150 points for just 2 units. If you do that times 6, well, that's your army. You're done. So
Keep the squads regular. Put them in brands.
Yeah, it's doable. Just think you're gonna have to. It's not an easy one. You have to practice it.
And never expect to be using the appendix rules at tournaments, because a lot of TOs don't even have them.
Yeah, they're stupid. They're stupid, and I hate them.
Yeah, I think if you wanted to do it, if you take maybe 2 or 3, 5-man squads in Brens with the double MMGs or LMGs on them, have that as a little side note and then build the rest of your army as normal. That could be quite effective, because having them as a little mobile battery going down one flank and just chucking machine gun shots
Well, I mean,
out, that's useful.
If you had 5 double LMG Brens, that's like, what, 400 points? And then if you put a 5-man regular squad in, so that's another 50 points, so then you're looking at another 250. That's 650 points for 10 dice, chucking out an absolute horrendous amount of shots every turn. So then all you got to think about is your anti-tank after that.
But you've got to be very careful, though, because if you're doing this, once the unit gets out of the Bren, you can only fire 1 LMG. And if that unit gets charged to get out of the Bren after the Bren's already moved, that Bren is then dead unless you can remove that squad from being closer to you. And that's the problem, is if as soon as your infantry is out and dead, all of those Brens just fuck off. So you need to be very careful. That's why I say just 2 or 3 of them as a little mobile base. That's it.
I mean, I've seen people take Bren armies, but I've not seen someone take an entire Bren army. You know what I mean? Like, one of my favorite units is like the Bren mortar carrier. So you can do that. You can have like anti-tank rifles on Brens if you want to go around the side. You can have the Wasp. So I can think you can go full Bren.
You can do a lot of Brens, yeah.
Yeah. I think take a tank platoon, take 3 Wasps, 2 mortar carrier Brens, and then the rest are just squads in Brens, and you can bring about 10 Brens. I want to do that now.
You've already started. You already have
really
at least 3 of the Brens.
It sounds really fun. Yeah, so 3 Wasps, that's 100. That's 300 points. Then you take 2 mortar ones, and that's going to be another 150 odd points. That's 450 points. Then you bring your 3 Brens for each squad. You bring your 3 Swims for the squad, so that's another 200 points there. Plus another 150. Yeah, that's about. You can fit that in. You can do it.
It'd be very different as well.
Mate, I've never seen a list like that.
No.
Great. Design a list. Send it in. We'll talk about it next month, because that looks really fun. Really fun. And with that, that's the end of What the Fact.
What the fact?
What the
Fact.
Right, shall we do some Hooby Looby?
The Hooba Dooby.
The Hooby Looby. Howdy, y'all, and welcome to Mr. Blobby Hobby Lobby.
Fuck?
Oh my god.
Oh mate, he's had a brain hemorrhage.
My name's Cletus, and we're here to talk about painting skills and stuff.
Oh god.
Cletus, how do you feel about those abortion laws in Alabama? You gonna be a daddy and an uncle.
And while we're at it, your brother/father.
We're here to talk about painting, not about how I fucked up my cousin. You've been drinking too much of that moonshine.
You screwed your mother.
Sorry, Sheffield's just upset because we're talking about his kindred spirits.
You're basically your own father.
Sheffield would go back in time and become his own granddad, wouldn't he? Like, if any of us were to do the Futurama scenario, it would be Sheffy.
It'd be completely accidental, though.
Accidental? You mean you wouldn't seek it out like a heat-seeking missile?
Oh, it's the Blooby Looby.
Blooby Looby. How we been for bloobying and hoobying this month?
Didn't really have anything to do.
Well,
It was a nice month off.
It's been a weird
Gloriously
one.
unproductive.
We've had that episode where we skipped one, and we all had shit pledges anyway, didn't we? To be fair.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I did that one.
I went above my pledge. Not only did I build like a couple of tanks, I built an entire Polish army.
Oh yeah, just a couple of tanks. They're not real tanks though, are they?
Okay, but does converting like 30 cavalrymen count?
Yeah, alright.
Yeah. So I've been productive. I did stuff. It's all good.
Yeah, so I have painted all of my bases for my Belgian army. So I borrowed your little green stuff roller and decided to do.
That thing is so good.
It's amazing.
Green Stuff World.
Yeah, and I decided to do a bunch of cobblestone bases. And let me tell you this now, because I've decided to paint them in 4 different colours to try and mimic a real cobblestone path. It's taken me almost a week and a half to paint like 60 bases.
Well, you're back down
It's
to our speed
absolutely
now, aren't
mental.
you?
It's absolutely mental.
You're way faster than me.
And but they do look really good. But I've just got to glue the models to them now and then decide whether I'm putting bricks or snow effect on them, or both. I haven't decided
I will
yet.
say, listeners, if you've never been on greenstuffworld.com,
Do it.
just go check them out. Their rolling pins are so cool, and it's not just rolling pins. They do like tentacle makers if you're into that kind of thing. I think they do tufts now. Like it's like a hobbyist just dreamboat website.
They giving us any prize support?
No.
No,
Mate,
shame.
We wish.
I
Yeah, I like their
them
stuff.
because I like the
Yeah.
I like the products. Yeah.
No,
I
I
will
do as
double
well.
check because I'm not sure if I've contacted them. So Green Stuff World, if you're listening, expect a mail tomorrow.
But yeah,
Dan is
good
coming
stuff.
for you.
Yeah.
Go on, Chef. What have you done for Pledgey this month?
I don't think I've done too much bolt action stuff. I've had a comparatively productive month. I know that I painted 2 small teams of SS in like the autumn camo, but I think that's about it actually. I've mainly been preparing my army and sort of stuff for the GT later this year, and been sort of considering lists and things. But I've not really played much or done much bolt action really. So my pledge will have to be a big one to make up for the fact I've been cheating on bolt action with other games.
Yeah.
Oh.
Did you say you'd done anything, Pete, or was it a month off?
Mainly a month off because the pledge we skipped I'd more or less finished with. I did matte varnish my SNLF. I mean, that's a thing, right?
I mean, it's like a 10-minute job.
I mean, he has to
Yeah.
shake that can, and that is masturbating time wasted.
I was gonna say Pete doesn't need any practice with that arm though. He's
I
fine.
know.
He's a pro.
I was practicing with my offhand, lads.
He was practicing with Sheffield's granddad.
I am Sheffield's granddad.
This is just a whole new angle. I didn't say anything when you were doing it before. I get. I don't agree, but I get the Sheffield's are racist. The Sheffield's older than us jokes. The Sheffield's doctor is not very ethical when it comes to probing. These jokes sort of make sense. The Sheffield is incestuous. Is entirely out of the blue.
The thing is, you're not even the oldest member of this cast.
I think I am, aren't I?
No, you're not. Dan is.
I'm 30.
I know I'm older than Dan. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
older than me by like a month.
He's,
My birthday's
No.
he's
August.
older than Dan. He's the oldest member of the cast. and also-
Maybe you are then. Yeah, but you just hold yourself with such just arrogance.
It's a default position for the church. Let's be
The
honest.
the type of arrogance that only comes from years of inbreeding.
I would rather be accused of arrogance that comes as if I've got ideas above my station than be an insufferable lefty idealist like you.
That's comrade. Lefty idealist to you, sir. Stalin approves. You know, the more and more political jokes we make, everyone's going to know exactly what our leanings are.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Toph would wear a Che Guevara t-shirt if he could find it in size marquee.
Hardcore sexual socialist.
I'd be the one holding the banner at the back that just says, "I don't know what I'm doing here." I have no leanings, nor do I care.
So yeah, I matte varnished my army. The first one I've actually matte varnished in a while. And that's about it. I mean, now I've just got to decide whether I'm repainting my other Japs, or because I can paint better, or I'm gonna build something new.
Start something new because we've seen enough
Italians.
Japanese.
Italians, please.
We have a
Avanti,
hole
avanti!
there's a hole that needs filling, Pete, and you're the man to fill it.
Thing is, though, it's got to be an allied nation because I've got bad guys. Bad guys. If I go bad guys again, people are gonna be like, "Are you that guy? Do you agree with the bad guys?"
You have some good guy armies. Alpha
Not in
Legion.
bolt action. Not in bolt action. I mean, Alpha Legion are the good guys. Because remember, in the 41st millennium, there are Alpha Legion and Alpha Legion that they shoot.
Speaking of Games Workshop products sneaking their way into a bolt action podcast, Is anyone else surprised at how quick contrast paints have sold out?
Am I surprised?
Yeah.
No.
After seeing some of the YouTube videos, I'm not as impressed with them as I was.
No, I'm still impressed.
The black
My
is shocking.
My painting's awful, so anything I can do is just a win in my book. So I'm
looking forward to getting some colours from my bolt action army. I'll be honest.
I'm actually tempted to go down to the gaming store on like 9 o'clock on Saturday morning to be there for opening to make sure I get some, because I don't trust the internet.
I will wait to see how Tofas turn out before I invest any money.
Yes, I think. Do you know when you go into like a slightly upmarket supermarket, like let's say Sainsbury's or Waitrose, and you want to buy deodorant, and it's all branded deodorant. Like I am going somewhere with this, with like Dove or a Nivea and like actual branded stuff, and it says moisturizing deodorant, and you think these two things don't go together. Is it moisturizer? Is it deodorant? Why would I need to combine these two things into one? That's how I feel about contrast paint. It's a base and a wash. Why can't I just do a base and a wash?
But you're combining two things you need to do in a single thing to save time. It's like when you have Lynx Africa body gel. It's so that you can like get yourself clean in the shower and smell like a bell end in a complete and utter one single step.
I just don't think the results are what
it means you got more time to date rape people on your night out because you've not had to spray half a kind of Lynx body spray on you.
It's being sold as like a miracle thing that will help you paint, and I don't think it will. I think it'll make crap models look crap, just at a slightly quicker rate.
Yeah.
It'll help with base layers, and that's about it.
Base layers is all
I don't think it will though, because it's going to be a very thin, translucent-y base layer. It's just going to be shit.
Like I'm sold on it for two things. I shouldn't like just dump on it entirely, but I don't think it's going to affect much. I think it'll make doing fur effect, and I think it'll make doing certain types of like dark cloth a lot easier. But apart from that, I don't think it's going to be.
I mean, the rest of the world disagrees with you because they have sold out of pre-orders everywhere.
Oh, but they'll sell out of everything.
No, is that sold out of pre-orders because you know the world love it, or sold out of pre-orders because they've intentionally not made enough of it?
I wouldn't think of that one. No, it's a paint range. You're gonna expect a fair bit of sales, aren't you?
You've got to factor in the rule of lazy game. If little Jimmy can buy 4 paints to make his army look tabletop standard, or he can buy 2 contrast, that's what he's gonna do.
I mean,
that's why
Sheffield always says he's like an average painter, but he's not. Like, that's a blatant lie. Because in at least like our club, which has a range of skills, he's in like the top 1 or 2 painters in the entire club. So if you think of our club's like 20 people, that's 19 people who would be quite interesting in contrast paints because they're just not at that level. Like I agree, like if you're a good painter, then it's a bit wasted. But think of the amount of people that aren't good painters.
I didn't want to come from a place of superiority. Like Toph and other people in the group are going to be buying contrast paints and using them, and I don't care. I don't think any less of them for it.
You do, it's fine, but keep going.
No, what I worry about is the idea that people who are new to painting will think that contrast paints do the job of actual skill for them, when actually you do still need to learn how to do it properly.
It's like it's like playing a bolt action Japanese army. You know what I mean? Like it will do something for you, but if you want to get really good, you have to take yourself off the off the stabilizers. No.
Yeah, I just know. I will probably get some in a limited amount, but. It's not shouted anything out to me apart from maybe I should paint a Skaven army because I can do it in 2 colours.
Well,
that's basically it.
For bolt action, the only thing I'd be interested in is doing the flesh tones because it'd make it really quick because you don't have to put that much detail into bolt action faces.
But then
having to buy the spray specifically to do a square centimetre of face is really fucking pointless.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. It's needing to have the spray base in order for it to work. Just doesn't really.
I think the browns and greens will do well.
Well, certainly better than the blues and reds will. # general election.
Oh dear.
Well, my pledge is to get some contrast paints and do some test models for my Polish army and post them up on the page so we can see how they do painted from a bolt action perspective.
My pledge is to finish my Waffen-SS cavalry squad because I was really, really happy with how the NCO came out, and I
They
want to
look
try
really
and do the
good,
others.
mate. They look
Yeah,
really
they look
good.
good. Yeah, look good.
Oh, I wonder if you
So,
what Games Workshop need to do is make a contrast paint that does all the different camo varieties, like the whole tartan in a can joke. Do you remember that
Oh
from
yeah, yeah.
from cartoons? I
Don't
want
you
to
mean
be able to
the
buy.
ultimate spray gun that they released April 1st, 2017?
That's the one. Basically, I want to be able to buy P. dot camo in a in a pot, or
Yeah. Or just I need some field camo. That'll do. There we go.
What's your guys' pledge?
yeah. So my pledge this month is I've got about I don't know, about 40 infantry, 20 odd cavalry models. My pledge is to just get all of the base colours on all of them. They're already pinned, so once the base colours are on, I'm just going to glue them to the base so that they are ready to be painted properly.
I'm gonna sit down and build something allied for a change.
You're finally gonna start your British.
Yeah, I'm gonna move from Japanese to ignore morale to British that get freebies.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Up and Atom is like a nice halfway house for you, Pete. That's a national rule. It'll keep
I'm
you
not
towing.
planning to use Up and Atom.
No? What you thinking?
I'm actually thinking of using Vengeance.
Left of field.
Which
Because
one's
pins
that?
are for noobs.
Go on, Pete. Explain Vengeance.
So, you pull your dice out. You go, I'm going to activate this unit, but before the order dice goes anywhere near it, you roll a d6 on a 4 or more. I think it is that unit. If the unit had a pin, it loses the pin, and then you put the order down and continue with the order. You still have to take the order check, but you then already lost 1 pin.
Oh, that's quite useful. So you have the potential to shed 2 pins a turn then?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
you combine that effect with the chaplain.
Or you could. That's a very good point.
Can you paint the chaplain to look like Sheffield?
Yeah, just
Chaplain
paint
Modder's got too much hair.
No, just do the red Nazi armband. It'll be fine.
I'm playing allies.
Do you want to do Sheffield or not? I don't know if Sheffield's like Allied Army legal.
He's like an ersatz.
No. He's the guy in the top. He's the guy in the top hat that's blatantly better than everybody else, but he lets them know about it at the same time.
Lovely. I will say that all of these pledges will be for nothing once the terrain turns up for not one step back.
You're about it. I'll build the British anyway.
Well,
Also, I'm moving house soon, so I will box all of my stuff up in the not too distant future. So hopefully, after I've got all these base colours done, and I can sit on it.
We've got a month to go, and the terrain still hasn't delivered yet. So we're going to have a fun time.
Yeah.
We've got
maybe-
some terrain, and I believe we've got a backup, so don't panic.
Oh yeah, we've got like backup options, but it'd be nice to not have to use the backups and actually do what we intended to do, which is just we're running out of time, and I think we're getting certain supplies are letting us down, and it's a bit sad, but
Yeah.
we'll get there. We'll do it, even if it
Well,
is just me
once-
booking a week off work and then sitting in my garage painting everything.
Yeah. Once they finally come and deliver the stuff, if it's too close to time, then we will berate them on this podcast to say how shit they are and that you shouldn't use them, which we are dangerously close to doing that now.
I did warn you.
I know.
When they said, we're going to order from this place, I was like, don't do it. And then we did
Yeah,
it.
but he gave us a massive discount, didn't he?
Yeah, because you can't get any sales otherwise. But it's fine. We'll save that for another...
Save that for next time.
Yeah. Any final words before we go to bed? Sheffield, you're very quiet. Have we upset you?
Yeah, a
No,
little bit. We've made
You
it
haven't
clear.
upset me. I just didn't prepare myself for the.
That's what your granddad said.
Like normally, the jibes come flying in from angles I expect, and this time it's like an arrow to the back.
Oh dear. Oh.
I'm very sad.
Why are you chuckling at over there?
He's lost it.
I've just
Toad's
lost it. I've lost it. It's fine.
He's killed himself.
Right.
Right. He's gonna die through laughter.
Right. I'm gonna go bed, and I'm gonna order some flowers to deliver to Sheffield while he's at work tomorrow because we've upset him so much.
What from you to me?
Yeah. From me to you.
To me.
See you.
Two, one. Chuckle
Chuckle
vision.
vision. Chuckle vision. Chuckle vision. This sound.
There's no synchronicity there at all.
Oh, who cares?